Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів. Робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить. Хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар? Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ. Тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 893 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again. And U.S. is now warning people that Iran might attack in the next 24 hours, and also Ukraine is smashing more Russian targets. It's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world as we've been able to get major news from not only Ukraine but also the Middle East, as Israeli forces have been put on high alert, and Israeli artillery forces of the Northern Division of Command, or the Northern Command Theater, are currently firing off star shells on the border to try and spot and detect any Lebanese infiltrators that may be making their way into northern Israel and shoot them on sight. We have also been able to get additional information that the United States Armed Forces are conducting preparatory works within the Middle East as well, with ad hoc airstrips being made at the Atamd garrison. We have also been able to hear that the Iranians are once again going through the hype talk again today, saying that they are going to be crossing every single red line that Israel has, and not only that, they are also going to be apparently attacking within 24 hours, according to U.S. intelligence. Not only that, but inside of Ukraine, we have gotten the unbelievable breaking news that severe damage has been caused today by Ukrainian deep strikes inside of Luhansk and the Rostov oblasts, with a major oil terminal being destroyed at Azov, an incredibly large oil depot is probably a better way to describe it, and also a major military factory in Luhansk, vital to the Russian war effort, has also been stricken as well and severely damaged. We've also been able to hear of major frontline actions by both sides, and the breaking news that it wasn't 6 F-16s that made it into Ukraine. There are 10 F-16s that are currently in Ukraine right now, and we have footage of them flying over Odessa and Western Ukraine. A huge step forward for Ukraine in the war, and a major change in how Ukraine will be fighting the air war against the Russian Federation. But we will be
That was
making...
a nice addition, just 4 extra F-16s. Like, that was unexpected. I didn't know they got those extra ones, but I'm glad to hear it, though, because that's nearly almost getting close to about double of the 6 that they originally received.
Man, it really is. It's a huge upgrade. And of course, I do have to make a quick mention because tonight is the Sunday night fundraiser. Tonight's fundraiser is for Save the Children, an incredible nonprofit that is helping to remove children and their families from war-torn areas of the world, including Ukraine. They are an amazing nonprofit that has done incredible work and has been helping out tremendously, not only in Ukraine, but worldwide, to help out children wherever they may be and wherever they may be put into great peril. And so supporting that fundraiser tonight will be helping to save another child, maybe many children, based off of how much we're able to fundraise, in war-torn areas of the world and also in Ukraine as well. So make sure to support it if you can. We have a $3,000 goal tonight, and we have already reached $1,000 on the fundraiser. So we're almost halfway there. And so with that, it is time for us to move on into that major breaking news, and we're going to be moving on down into the port of Azov, specifically the greater port of Rostov-on-Don, one of the largest and most important maritime harbors that the Russian Federation has at this moment. It is one of the few that is within a warm water area in southern Russia, and not only that, it is one of the only few, Rostov-on-Don and Novorossiysk, that are a part of the Southern Military District's zone of command, meaning that a lot of the supplies that are brought in here are directly integrated into the Russian armed forces that are fighting in Ukraine at this very moment. If we move on into the city of Azov, many of y'all will know that the Ukrainians have already put a pretty solid number on this small town, as the fueling terminal that is used by ships transiting up and down the Don River and into the Black Sea and the rest of the Mediterranean use this specific fueling node right here attached to these oil tanks to fuel up their vessels and keep them on the move. We have been able to see that just a few hours ago, the larger and more numerous oil depots or oil tanks within the area were also stricken as well and have caught on fire. It appears that the fire is still raging out of control at this very moment, and it looks like things are not going that well for the Russian Federation again within the Rostov-on-Port area. Here is one of the clips showing the fire. Also, I want to point this out. Russian civil authorities in the area said the following: "This is a simple grass fire, blade. that moved on over into the oil depot and caught the whole thing on fire. So the Russian civil authorities are saying that it was a cigarette that got thrown out of the side of a car window. It caught the grass on fire, and somehow, some way, the grass burned so strongly and so ferociously, it leaped into the non-grassy area of this oil depot for the large part, caught the whole thing on fire and burned it to the ground. So this has got to be the hottest burning cigarette and the hottest burning grass we have ever seen. It's even hotter burning than Hot Dog Man's grass. Aw, man.
Man, these Lucky Strikes are turning into freaking flamethrowers out here, like with the size of this fire. Like, what the hell kind of cigarettes are they smoking?
Yeah, but you can kind of see the supposed grass fire story. It just looks like the fire is like just ravaging the entirety of the area, but we can see that all the grass on the side of the highway has been burned. But interestingly enough, Matthew, the trees have not been burned, and this is why I'm saying, okay, hear me out. Usually oil depots have absolutely no grass in them. Usually it's some kind of a gravel that is around the oil depot itself, and usually it's also paved as well with a pretty large kind of a tarmac area surrounding these oil tanks. So how in the world did this fire burn not strongly enough to burn the trees, but it burned strongly enough to somehow hop straight over concrete to an oil tank and then catch it on fire? How does that work, like in the Russian mind? I don't know how that would work.
That sounds pretty improbable to me. I think that sounds like propaganda.
And we can see it here again. It looks like hell out there. People have actually pulled over to watch this spectacle of the massive fire happening at this oil silo. Or oil depot. I need to use the right terminology. Go ahead.
That's the biggest thing they've got going right now in Russia, is stopping to look at their infrastructure burning down.
Man, they're like, hey, look at that. This is the last time Russia will ever be a very important country, or a country at all. And it's kind of true. I mean, they're doing pretty poorly. But nevertheless, we were able to get some additional footage of this fire as it was occurring in the area of Azov today. And so let me move y'all on to our next clip, which is from one of those bystanders on the road. And we also got some audio letting us hear the profuse burning in this fire. Play it.
I wonder at this point, would the Russians rather have fires or would they rather have flooding? Because they're clearly not equipped to handle the fires. The fire department doesn't have the right equipment. But yet at the same time, they're not equipped for the flooding either. It's like, it seems like Russia doesn't prepare for anything related to emergencies for their civilians.
You know, Matthew, the most dangerous thing for the Russian Federation is like some of the basics of survival. Water to drink and fire to stay warm. Those two things are like the most deadly and devastating things to the entirety of Russia, are the two things that have to kind of keep you alive, is keeping warm with some kind of a fire or some form of heating of some sort, and then water. For some reason, they can never get down how to make those safe or not let those run rampant and out of control and burn down everything that's important inside the Russian Federation. But nevertheless, the damage was extremely severe. According to Russian civil authorities, of course, told you all the story a second ago, but I gotta tell y'all again to get the absurdity of this through. They said, this is what they said. They said this was a grass fire that burned so strongly it didn't burn the trees, but it somehow ended up burning the oil depot. I want y'all to keep that in mind, okay? A fire so hot that trees are impervious to its flames, but an oil depot inside of a an oil tank with the oil inside of a metal container, apparently it was hot enough to catch that oil inside of that tank on fire. That is bogus to me. That is ridiculous. But it is nice to hear that they were able to lose another large oil farm, if we want to call it that, down in this area today. And hopefully this will be once again putting the Russian maritime shipping in this area around Rostov-on-Don into a pretty big lurch. From what we know, they can't even conduct fueling efforts at this moment because all fueling nodes all the way up and down the Don River, or the Rostov River, the Don, I believe it's actually called, yeah, it's the Don, but all the way from Volgograd and all the way to Rostov-on-Don, all the fueling nodes have been stricken and knocked out by Ukraine in one form or another, and we haven't heard about those coming back online. So this oil was probably never going to be used to trying to fuel vessels traveling up and down the river, but it is still more oil that the Russians do not have available to them, and once again, a pretty serious loss for the Russian Federation, because they're already running on borrowed time from what we understand as far as the oil situation goes. They have been at a 15 to 20% deficit, which means that they're consuming about 700,000 to 800,000 barrels of refined fuel products, or barrels of oil, per day that they're not able to replace. The Russians have been trying to find ways to replace that loss throughout the course of the war. They bought an incredibly large amount of refined fuel products from Kazakhstan, but even at that, it was not enough, and they still continue to bleed their oil reserves dry, and they're not finding a way to replenish them or at least stabilize the drain on the oil reserves inside of Russia. And so every single time one of these depots is hit, it means that they have even less time to keep the Russian Federation's economy, the military, and everything in between running. And so with that, I hope we were able to cover that story well, because the next one is also fairly interesting. Let us take a train, really quickly, from Azov to Luhansk. We actually got to see that today. This is from the Rostov region, and this is a train that is traveling through the area in between Rostov-on-Don and Luhansk. And I just want to show y'all what non-war-torn Russia looks like right now as we travel on our way from Azov to Luhansk to the next breaking news story. You see, this is why the Russians think that they're liberating Ukraine, because this is what a normal Russian town looks like on this train route. This is not in a war zone, by the way, anywhere. This is very far into Russia. It's about 70 to 80 miles behind the Ukrainian-Russian border, and this is an abandoned city. It's just a ghost town. They ride past this on a train, and it looks no more different than, say, Bakhmut or Mariupol or Avdiivka or any of those cities for that matter.
How does it even end up like this? Because it looks like either a bomb hit it or like they had war here or something. Is it left over from the Soviet days or something?
No, this is just a town that ended up running into bad times. Everyone moved out, and it just collapsed, because from what we can tell, most of it was actually built probably in the 60s and the 70s. So this would have been like a Khrushchev, Brezhnev era kind of a city.
Interesting. Yeah, it looks like it's just it looks like it's more than crumbling, really. It looks like it's been bombed.
Yeah, it almost does, man. It's like, dude, the Russians go to Syria and they think it's an upgrade. Like, they're like, hey, look at this. Like, there's actual roofs. Like, this is crazy. But moving on from that, now that we have
Awkward
made...
pause.
Yeah, long awkward pause. I thought Matthew was going to have another joke to throw in there. But now that we have rode the train from Azov all the way up to the area of Luhansk, and now that we're in the city of Luhansk, we then got to see more fun, at least for the Ukrainians, happening up here today, as we were able to see that a pretty big factory ended up getting hit significantly by Ukrainian long-range missiles. Now, let me turn up that audio, and here's a clip. You see the missiles impacting right over there. And the boom will hit this building in a second, or more so the sound wave, right there. And there's another explosion. They're hitting this place kind of consistently. Oh.
Explosive, bliat.
Oh, and a third. Oh, you got to see a third one down in there. Look at that. And now that quiet has descended upon the land, we have to show y'all the next clips that we have from this little attack that happened today by Ukraine. This is actually a duplicate, so sorry about that, everyone. For some reason, I didn't recognize that I put down two duplicates in the same area, so we're going to skip forward to the end. This is the workshop of the Donetsk plant in Luhansk, and from what we understand, the workshop of the Donetsk plant is used, in particular, to repair and keep Russian military equipment running in the war in Ukraine, or as the Russians call it, the special military operation. And this entire building right here was the one that got hit and knocked out. According to the intelligence that we have at the moment, there are only two contenders for the kind of missile that could have impacted this building and destroyed it: the ATACMS and the Storm Shadow. And currently, evidence is starting to indicate more so that it was a Storm Shadow rather than an ATACMS. So it seems as though an air-launched Storm Shadow, most likely from an Su-24, or maybe an F-16, although we're highly doubting that at this point. It's most likely an Su-24 that fired off this missile, ended up hitting this building and knocking it out. That is a very big thing, and it's once again showing that Russian logistical efforts, at least sustainment and support services deep behind enemy lines, are once again being crucially damaged and destroyed by Ukraine. And these are some of the most important parts of the military that Ukraine can attack. Really the most important part of the Russian war effort in general, whether it be military or somewhat civilian, that Ukraine can attack is military and economic infrastructure, such as railroads, such as repair stations, supply depots, and ammunition dumps. By targeting these and destroying them, the combat abilities of the enemy is greatly weakened, and we start to see that the Russians are either having a large amount of tanks that are damaged or needing of repairs and are not able to be operational on the battlefield, and they cannot be turned around because there's not enough repair facilities behind the line. And for that reason, the amount of present main battle tanks on the battlefield is significantly less even than it is currently, which from what we understand, it's starting to get low even at this moment. Another thing with the Ukrainians attacking these oil depots back here behind the lines is that if those oil depots were housing some form of usable fuel like diesel or gasoline, which we actually believe it was storing some form of possibly raw or crude oil, it would be a serious impact to the Russian war effort as well, because while it isn't being used on the shipping route up and down the Rostov River, or the Don River more so, it is going to possibly be used in a refinery nearby to produce usable fuel for the Russian army to be able to keep their tanks, APCs, and other vehicles running throughout the remainder of the war. And now their supply lines are going to be stretched even farther, because the oil depot has been knocked out in the area of Rostov-on-Don. They're going to have to find another refinery and another fuel source to be able to try and get usable fuels down into this area of Ukraine where the Russian military is currently operating. And on top of that, they will not be able to repair vehicles that will be breaking down at the same kind of efficiency that they were, as one of their largest repair depots in Luhansk ended up getting hit and severely damaged today. All of this is incredibly good news, and a lot of people have also been wondering, because this has been a little bit of a discussion today, and it's one that we have to get into immediately because it really is breaking news, because it's the first time ever that we've been able to see raw video of a major event like this happening. We're going to be skipping ahead a little bit in the Ukraine war news to get to this, so that way we can talk about it, because it's a bit of a shock. Over the skies of the city of Odessa today, the major port city of Ukraine. It's actually the largest port that existed in the Soviet Union, interestingly enough. It is the largest port that existed in Ukraine before 2014 when the Russians annexed Crimea. Sevastopol was the second largest port in Ukraine. But nevertheless, in this major port city, one of the major flashpoints of the Ukraine war, as missiles and drones continuously fly in a corridor in between Mykolaiv and Odessa to try and reach deeper and further into western Ukraine during each and every attack. There was a very interesting sighting over the city today. And let me make sure to get that audio, and let me make sure to show this whole 3-second clip, because it's pretty clear what's in the skies above Odessa. It is a Ukrainian F-16.
Man, that is a beautiful sight. They've been waiting so long to get those jets. I really wonder how long they've actually been there, because surely they didn't just arrive yesterday. They've probably been there, I would guess, maybe for about a week or two, and they just decided to announce it maybe today or a day ago. So I wonder what the actual truth is on that.
I wonder, but also there seems to be a whole bunch of things that we thought were true, but then turned out to be untrue. For example, there isn't just 6 F-16s in Ukraine like we were told would be the original number, which would then be bumped up to 10 way later in the year. They got 10 of them already. And from what we understand, the Ukrainian Armed Forces has made an announcement. There are 10 entire F-16s that are currently in the Ukrainian Air Force at this moment. And dang, Hal Roadster in the 333.
He just hit the goal!
Oh! Let's go, baby! Damn!
Ukraine! Here I'm Slava! Chugga chugga!
We hit the goal. I forgot that was even happening, really, because I was like getting so caught up in covering the news. But a huge shout out to all of y'all for doing that. That is absolutely incredible and truly amazing to see. And of course, on a night, Matthew, and I think I can say this with confidence, I think YouTube has stopped auditing the channel because we have 11,000 live viewers right now and 33,000 views so far. So it looks like the audit has ended and the Enforcer channel is back in the clear again. Yes, sir! Like, so.
Man, I think we're still being audited. I think the viewership is actually really that high with the audit happening. But also, by the way, I got to make a note of this. It's only been about, what, 20, 25 minutes or so. We've already smashed $3,000 of the $3,000 goal. That is absolutely tremendous to see. And once again, huge shout out to everybody again for that, because every single Sunday we pull this off, and once again, it has happened. So big shout out to the LSA for making it possible.
And I gotta say, it is absolutely incredible, absolutely amazing to see. $3,000 raised in hardly 20 minutes, 25 minutes really. That is incredible. No other channel is really able to do that on a weekly basis at this point, except for the Lee Spring Army. And so put an LSA in the chat, and we're going to get right back into the news of the breaking development that the F-16s are actually in service, and we're getting loads of information about them. We were able to see the Ukrainian F-16s once again, and this little short clip right, well, actually not that short clip, we need to go to the other one right here. And so let me see if I can grab this one. Dang, this isn't it either. So this is the one saying that they got 10 F-16s already, which is really early and way ahead of schedule, so that's pretty interesting. But here is the clip of Zelensky making a statement about the F-16s that have arrived, and also showing them off a great deal. And here it is.
Зустрічей та перемовин, щоб зміцнити можливості нашої авіації, зміцнити можливості нашої ППО, наших сил оборони. Ми часто чули у відповідь слово «це неможливо», але все ж ми зробили можливим те, що було нашою амбіцією, нашою оборонною потребою.
And look at that, y'all could see it right there. Look at that Ukrainian Air Force roundel on an F-16. Who would have ever thought that that would actually happen at some point? I wouldn't have. Like, I really thought it's in the deep recesses of my mind that this was never going to happen, that they were never really going to get F-16s, and they were just going to be indefinitely postponed. But now they're actually there, which is just crazy.
Yep. I thought they were going to permanently shelf them, like keep telling Ukraine over and over, they're going to arrive, you know, in 6 months. They're going to arrive in another 6 months. And I was like convinced like you. I thought they're going to scrap this all together and not do it. But it's crazy. They're actually here. It feels like unreal. Like they're finally sitting there. And it feels like it's just not quite real for some reason. But I'm very glad they have them.
Man, I am too, man. But this video showed a lot. And we'll break it down here in a second. But I want to make sure to show you all everything that they showed today of these F-16s.
Потребою. А тепер це дійсно реальність у нашому небі. F-16 в Україні. Ми забезпечили це. Я пишаюсь усіма нашими хлопцями, які якісно опановують ці літаки і вже почали їх використовувати для нашої держави. Я дякую нашій команді за цей важливий результат. Дякую партнерам, які справді дієво допомагають із F-16 і першими державам, які акцептували наш запит про надання літаків. Дякую. Данія, Нідерланди, Сполучені Штати і всі наші партнери. Ми цінуємо вашу підтримку. І бажаю нашим повітряним силам, усім нашим воїнам відчувати гордість українців, нашої бойової авіації.
Pause the video for just a second. That runway, I couldn't tell because it's a sort of a weird angle, but go back to the runway real quick. Let's take a peek at it. That runway looks like, yeah, it looks like it's a gravel strip, or either it's a sort of an ill-repaired runway. So it looks like the thing's doing perfectly fine landing and taking off on the runway, because that was one huge major concern. Are the F-16s going to be able to handle sort of repaired runways with their landing gear? And it looks like it's handling it just fine.
It sounds to me, like, I'm just saying this to say it, sounds to me like a lot of people were just trying to come up with an excuse as to why the F-16 couldn't operate in Ukraine, but it'll operate just fine on a runway like that. But getting back to the video.
Нашою бойовою авіацією і приносити Україні саме такі бойові результати. Слава повітряним збройним силам України, слава нашому народу, слава Україні!
Героям слава! And we see them flying over right there. Look at that. Those
crazy to see. Very good to see.
That is crazy. But there are a couple of interesting things that we can actually break down here in this video that they did not state were going to be included with the F-16s, but they were included early. So let me skip forward here. Let's see here. I'm going to mute this so that way we can move around more freely without the audio playing. So let's see here. I believe at some point in the video. So all of them, from what we can tell, are some form of an F-16AM, which is an F-16A that was modified later on with more advanced avionics and computer systems, and I believe a radar as well. I believe the radar may have been upgraded on the AM model from the A. And so this thing, as far as everyone really needs to be concerned, is an F-16C, maybe even an F-16 Block 50 in terms of the kind of abilities that this thing has. while being an older F-16, one of the first that were really put in service in the world. This thing has been modified and upgraded enough in Dutch service that it is pretty much a top-of-the-line modern-day F-16, really by all measures. And then another interesting thing that we can see here is the missiles, or more so the loadout that this F-16 is able to carry. First off, it has what appears to be a 480-gallon drop tank on the side of the wing, which is a very interesting thing. It's showing that they were provided drop tanks with no extra charge, apparently, by the West, and it looks like they're doing for free, and that is going to be extending the range and loiter time of these F-16s very significantly, because with 3 drop tanks, because the F-16 can actually carry 3 of them, it can carry 1 on each wing and then 1 right under the fuselage, and this thing can extend its flight time by about an additional 30 to 40 minutes. Without the fuel tanks not running on afterburner, an F-16 can fly for about 30 to 40 minutes. So this means that the fuel tanks, if you were to add every drop tank you could onto this F-16, it extends its range by 100%. So that is an incredibly great thing that they were able to get with the F-16s, no additional charge added. Another interesting thing that we're seeing here is that they immediately, with no extra charge as well, got a complement of Western missiles to mount onto these aircraft. Now, this was something that I wasn't really sure they were going to get or not, because usually sometimes the West will provide a system without really providing a lot of the advanced ammunitions or weapons that would be required to really make them effective, but they got everything from what we can tell. This is either, and I gotta say it's either because we don't really know for certain what variant of the AIM-9 this is. This is either an AIM-9M or it's an AIM-9X. There's a really big difference in between the two. The AIM-9X is able to travel, I believe, at a slightly faster speed at its top speed in flight, and it also is able to pull a harder amount of Gs. I believe that the AIM-9M can pull a 40 G turn in flight, which is insane. Like, this is almost the epitome of a modern dogfighting missile if it is an M model AIM-9. If it's an X model AIM-9, that actually means it is the best by far, but I don't know the specific variant of this AIM-9. It's either an AIM-9M or it's an AIM-9X. Might even be an AIM-9L, although that's highly unlikely because the AIM-9Ls have largely been phased out of service everywhere, and if they are in a stockpile, they're being converted into an AIM-9M. Another thing that is really, really interesting, this is really the juicy one, is this big-ass missile right up here on the external pylon on the very edge of the wing. A lot of people are probably like, what in the hell is that? That is something that Ukraine just got, apparently with the F-16s that arrived. It is an AIM-120 AMRAAM, which means that it is a medium-range air-to-air missile. Now, it's called medium-range. In reality, these are some of the longer-range missiles that are commonly used beyond something like an R-27 in the Russian Air Force or something along those lines. But let me see here if I can get y'all a good picture of the, here we go. Here's an AIM-120 on display at the National Air and Space Museum, but this thing is truly an incredible missile. It operates instead of the AIM-9, which operates pretty much off of a heat seeker or an infrared sensor that detects the heat of an aircraft's engine and goes for that. The AIM-120 actually operates as an active radar homing missile. What's interesting about that is that the F-16 has a beyond visual range radar, which means that it can pick up air targets over the horizon, outside of visual range of the pilot, and report back the exact details and the direction of flight that that enemy aircraft is flying in. The F-16 can then lock onto that aircraft at about 60, 70 miles away, and it can fire off this AIM-120. The AIM-120 is an active radar homing missile, meaning that once this missile is fired, there is a radar system inside of the nose cone of the missile itself that tells the missile where it is and where it isn't, and helps it to be able to make it to the enemy aircraft and destroy it on the spot, without really the assistance or a lock by the F-16's radar throughout the entire flight. Some people may know a little bit of what I'm talking about with this missile. Maybe this will be a way to explain it for some other people. Well, actually, that would make things a lot more complicated, talking about the AIM-54 and the Bulldog mode and everything. But beyond that, this thing is able to pretty much guide itself after a specific distance of flight. It is able to pick up the target on its own and then carry itself on to the target and hit it without the F-16 having to maintain a radar lock the entire time that this missile is flying. That is a major change, because if the F-16 wants to, it can fire off this missile. The missile will really take care of itself and guide itself on towards the enemy plane, and the F-16 can immediately start to conduct evasive maneuvers to try and dodge or avoid an incoming missile that may have been fired by its Russian adversary, such as an R-27, which is the radar-guided version of an AIM-7. I guess is the best way to call it. The R-27 is very different than an AIM-7 in practice and also in its design, but it's fairly similar, at least in its I guess you could say, execution, that it's a semi-active radar homing missile, meaning that the aircraft that launches it has to maintain a radar lock on its target the entire time that missile is flying. If they lose the radar lock, the missile will be lost. But nevertheless, this is one of the best missiles in the world. The United States is currently trying to phase this thing out in replacement of a better AMRAAM. I forgot the name of that one. It's like the 260, I think, or something like that. But this is, at the moment, the best missile in service in the world. I'm not saying that because it's American. I'm not saying that because that would be a good propaganda spin. Truly, by the metrics, this is the best semi-active, well, actually active radar homing missile of its kind in the entire world. And the Ukrainians got access to this thing with the F-16s, meaning that they can now do things that the Russian Air Force just simply could not conceive of doing. The Russians do have, I want to make sure to make a caveat here, the Russians do have R-77s, which are their version of an AIM-120. They look very different in practice. They're actually a lot bigger and a lot bulkier than the AIM-120, but from what we know, they aren't really that advanced, and they don't really perform as well at longer ranges compared to the AIM-120. This is a picture of the R-70 right here, and you can kind of see the absolute width of this thing compared to an AIM-120. It has a bit of a shorter range. It travels at a slightly slower speed as top speed in its flight. It's not really that great of a missile. So the AIM-120, once again, will be beating out the Russian version of the active radar homing missile. And so it is a very good thing. I cannot state this enough. It is an incredibly good thing that Ukraine got access to this. They also got access to additional sensor systems on board these F-16s. They added a little bit extra, once again, free and of no charge. These sensors right here on the back of this pylon are actually a special kind of sensor that helps the F-16 to be able to pick up possible SAM launches of a SAM missile, and to be able to help the F-16 to properly evade those incoming missiles. So it's kind of like putting the training wheels on, as far as the pilot is concerned, on detecting surface-to-air missile launches and helping them to evade it, because this system is going to give them the most advanced heads up possible. Pretty much as soon as a missile is fired, the RWR is immediately going to be screaming at the pilot that there's a missile that has been launched and it's directly on the way towards this F-16. So that is an incredible addition that they have as well. Then we can also see something interesting here. I forgot the specific name of this helmet, but it's one of the more advanced ones out there in the Western world currently. It has the helmet mounted sight inside of it, so it allows the pilot to be able to get an off-bore lock on some missile systems, which is a very amazing addition. Like, I cannot overstate how good of an addition that really is for these pilots, because that means that they have a lot more flexibility than the Russian counterparts, because while the Russians and some of their more modern aircrafts do have helmet mounted sights, most of them do not. Most Su-27s, most MiG-29s, and pretty much every single Su-34 and Su-25 does not have a helmet mounted sight for their pilot. And so for that reason, this F-16 is going to have a lot more flexibility and a massive upper hand advantage when trying to lock onto and destroy enemy Russian aircraft within Ukraine's airspace. So that is once again
Are those the helmets that have to be like custom fitted to the pilot's head and everything, or are these different ones?
I think they are the ones that may be custom fitted to the head and everything. I think they are those.
And does it have the built-in HUD display in it, like the heads up where they can see everything, like in the visor?
Oh yeah, it has all of that.
Oh wow, they got the nice ones then.
Yeah, so like when they look straight forward in the cockpit, the little helmet mounted sight thing goes away and they just look straight at the what's it called? The heads up display. And then when they look to the left, right, up, or down, then that's when the little helmet mounted sight engages and they're able to use that while not looking directly at the HUD.
Interesting. Also, by the way, this is a really good view of the runway right here. I saw someone a minute ago. They said the concern is not the landing gear and how durable that is. The concern is whether or not the air intake, which is really low on the F-16, is that going to suck in rocks or other debris and then cause a engine failure? To me, it looks like it's pretty clean. It's not the best runway in the world from what we're looking at right here on this picture, but it looks like they're probably going to keep it clean. So that probably shouldn't be an issue from what we're seeing.
And it shouldn't be. And we can see them here prepping this F-16 for flight, going through all the checks. You can see the pilot here doing some hand
He's
signs.
happy as a lark.
Man, he's throwing up gang signs. Also, another thing, there's the actual rotary gun on an F-16. It's a 20mm M61A1 rotary cannon, and that is actually the gun we were talking about last night, if y'all remember, on the F4 Phantom, when the F4 Phantom didn't have a gun, and then they modified all of the variants of the F4 to have one. That is actually the same rotary cannon that was mounted onto the F4s way back in the day. The F-16 has the same one. And then we can see them rolling forward. They can see them taxiing and then taking off. That runway does not look like it's in good shape. They also slowed down this footage a good bit as well. But with that, a very amazing thing to see that these F-16s have arrived, and it's wonderful to know that Ukraine will be able to count on these aircraft to help defend their skies. But moving on from that little bit of news in Ukraine, a lot of people have been talking about the F-16s as a whole, and considering that there was a little bit of deception that went on for the public, because we were told that there was only going to be 6 that arrived, and they would finally have 10 by the end of the year. They actually have 10 of them now, and that is a complete contradiction to what we have been told in the past, and a lot of people are saying that more are secretly arriving as we speak, and they may be full strength at a much shorter time frame than was being publicly stated a little while ago. Others are saying that it will probably remain in very limited numbers for now as they continue to try and train more Ukrainian pilots and get them into Ukraine and get them flying those jets. Some people are saying that they need more intel, and others are a little bit unsure and undecided. But Matthew, what are people thinking about the F-16? Because considering that 10 of them are there, and 10 of them aren't supposed to be there right now, are people thinking that there are more on the way that we just don't know about, or do they think that these are just going to be the only ones so far? And what are you thinking about it as well?
So I would say clearly there is some offset going on here. There's a little bit of deceit around the number of F-16s that arrived. Because like you mentioned, we were told that 6 got there, but now there's 10, so 4 more than expected. So the question is, do you think more will arrive sooner than expected? 62% said yes, more are secretly arriving, while 14% said no, it'll remain limited for now to about 10, and 12% said I really need more intel. And on this one, we're basically taking an educated guess. There's really no way to know unless we had the inside intel that we do not have. But I would have to say it's really going to depend on the amount of trained pilots that Ukraine has. But now that we know for a fact that F-16s are indeed in Ukraine, that blows the argument to hell that maybe the U.S. was withholding the F-16s because they actually don't want to give them. Now they've actually handed them over. It's a done deal. So I'm beginning to wonder if there's an issue maybe with training pilots that's causing a delay in arriving the rest of the F-16s. That could be it. So I'm actually with the 12% that said I need more intel, but I'm leaning toward the side that more will be arriving soon. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that in my honest opinion, I think that there's still more arriving on the way. Considering that their original number was 6 and 10 arrived, if we were to go off of that, as in they were underinflating the numbers of aircraft that are going to be in Ukraine, that means that there are 40% more aircraft being delivered in each delivery than we were expecting. So if we were to go off of that, that means that in the next delivery cycle, there's going to be about 8 more F-16s that are probably introduced that we don't know about until they're actually delivered. And even still, they may try and keep those numbers a fairly concealed secret on how many there really are inside of Ukraine. So I would have to say that in my opinion, I would believe that there are probably more on the way that we do not know about at the moment, because of course, it's a precedent that they have set at this point, and that's the reason why I'm going off this logic. They have set a precedent that they're not being honest to the public, and they're also not being honest probably to deceive the Russians into thinking that it's not going to be that big of a deal, and that the numbers are going to be fairly small. But apparently the numbers are going to be larger each time than what's being publicly stated, and this first time where they said there's going to be 6 of them, and then there's actually 10 of them, is already laying out an idea that there are going to be more on the way, and we're not going to be getting a clear picture live as we're going on exactly how many F-16s are on the way, how many of them have been delivered, and how many of them are currently in use. So I would have to say there is probably going to be a lot more of them in the future that are going to end up being delivered to Ukraine a lot faster than we're expecting. But with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well. And it is time for us to actually move on down really quickly into the Middle East, because there is a lot of interesting stuff that has been going on in the Middle East. I mean, an incredibly large amount today. The Iranians are, of course, threatening that they're going to split the skulls of the Israelis, and the Israelis are currently on high alert in the northern area of the border, and they're firing off star shells while we're live right now, looking for possible infiltrators that are trying to make their way across the border. Before we get into that, though, to explain a little bit of why the Israelis are going on high alert at the moment and really trying to get ready for whatever may be coming, we were able to hear some pretty interesting news and developments from Tehran today. Iran said that their response is going to be crossing all of Israel's red lines, meaning that they're going to be trying to do anything and everything to provoke the Israelis with this upcoming attack. Not only that, but we were able to get additional information that Iran has rejected all diplomatic calls that have been made by the United States and other Arab nations for some sort of restraint in response to Hania's assassination. Apparently, according to what we know, they have completely outright refused any form of restraint, anything that looks like restraint, and they are going to be going all in. And considering that their diplomatic actions are showing that they are wildly hostile and they're not even open to saying that they'll scale it down even if they didn't, it is showing that they are about to be going all in very soon. And the last bit of news.
Also, not only are they not open to actually talking peace, but now they've started threatening all their neighbors that if you do anything to get involved or help the U.S. or Israel out, we'll start firing on you as well. So that's definitely not peaceful talk. They're ready to fight with literally everybody.
That is true. They are actually trying to threaten war with literally anyone in the region that sides with the West, and that means that Jordan is pretty much already under fire at this moment. Well, it's going to be, because it's going to help out in the defense of Israel. They've already made that very clear. And then, according to U.S. information, Anthony Blinken, I believe he is the Secretary of State, if I'm correct, Matthew?
Yes, he is.
Okay, so good. I was wanting to make sure I got his position correct. Blinken told G7 countries on Sunday that Iran and Hezbollah are most likely going to attack Israel within the next 24 hours. And that, at the time that was published, was about 3 hours ago, meaning that there's about 21 hours left, according to the Secretary of State's window that has now been announced for this attack to commence. So once again, we have a timeline that's been put out there about an upcoming attack, but I once again want to make it clear to everyone that any timetable, even being put out by the Secretary of State, is most likely going to be inaccurate. We saw that the United States Department of Defense's statement that an attack would happen within 72 hours was incorrect, as that time window has now elapsed, and we are 24 hours past the end of that window, and no attack has happened yet. So the Secretary of State is now coming out with a new timetable, which is putting us at Enforcer HQ on high alert and making sure that we're combing through the news incredibly strongly again. But the reality is that an attack may not happen within that 24-hour window. We already are 3 hours into it, and we're not really seeing anything yet that is showing that the Iranians are ready to attack. Usually, with the last attack in April, we saw that the Iranians took a very long amount of time to actually respond to Israel. It was about a week or two from the actual point of provocation to their provocation against Israel. And so we understand that it probably will still be a good amount of time on from this point, maybe several more days, maybe even a week, until they actually conduct an attack. If it happens before then it's falling within our 1 week window, but we don't want to be putting out on this channel that is going to happen within 24 hours, because that is most likely at this point going to be incorrect, considering that no one's really gotten the timetable correct so far. And so we're going to be saying it's going to happen any minute now, but we don't know when exactly it's going to actually unfold or happen. So and some people are like, well, if you mean any minute, that's like a specific time frame. Not really. It's pretty much on the cusp of happening, but we don't know when the cusp of it is. It could be days, it could be a week, or maybe even 2 weeks from now, but it's going to be sometime incredibly soon, and therefore, for that reason, everyone should be taking this time as a pretty big fortune, actually, and trying to prepare for what's going to be coming next. But moving on from that, we did get to see that the Iranians did drop another hype video today. This one went hard. Oh, check it out. Like, look at this, man. It's like a damn movie trailer.
Did they just recycle like footage from yesterday's video? Because some of that stuff, like that rack of like drones, looked like it was out of literally yesterday's video.
I think that was out of yesterday's video, but you know something, Matthew, that I noticed? Look at this stupid control room. That is the dumbest looking control room I've ever seen. They have a portrait of Khamenei and also the new president up there. on the controller. Like, why do they need to look at that in the middle of executing a mission? Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
Man, this looks like a gaming room. Like, you know, like those pro gamers have like those competitions. It looks like that instead of a war room.
dude, you know what this looks like? This looks like one of those YouTube commentator rooms. Like, yep, welcome back, everyone. It's Moist Critical. Like, it's like an Iranian Moist
Yeah.
Criticals room. It's like, what is this? I don't know, but we can see here a little radar system. Oh, also, by the way, not like trashing on Moist Critical's room. It actually looks pretty cool. But like, this is like the Iranian Patriots version of that room. That's what I'm trying to get at here. But we can see an Iranian radar. We can see some guy in a room, another radar system, and it's the damn tunnels that they had for the F4 video. They just moved the F4s out, and they're like, okay, move in all the missiles to make it look really cool here. They have a obsession with this one bunker network that they have in their country. They use it for every single video they make at this point. It's sad. It's so pitiful that this is like the only cool thing they have, but they are going to milk this thing. They are milking this like Disney is milking the Avengers series. They want these tunnels to be in every single video they can get.
And also, they moved all of their missiles and equipment out into the hallway. It's like, is that really like where you're supposed to store them? Is like really in the hallway like that?
Man, I would say that this is probably an OSHA violation, but I don't think Iran has OSHA. Like, I'm not gonna lie. And then they set up the missiles inside the tunnels because, you know, you launch these things into bedrock, right? You know, like you just slam that thing right into the roof up there, I guess. And then they move another one in, and it's like, why? It's like, why are we... Also, look, there's Soleimani, who died like a dog right outside of Baghdad airport. Got obliterated by a drone strike back in the late 2010s. So now they're moving out all of their rockets, or their missiles more so, into the desert to set them up. They're showing off the drone cradles again. And then at the end of it, I guess this is coming soon to a theater near you, outro kind of a thing for this whole video. Because it's like they're trying to hype this up like it's a movie. I guess to try and get the Iranian public behind it. But still, this is absolutely asinine and one of the goofiest things I've ever seen. But once again, they're still trying to hype up the Iranian public that war is coming. But moving on from that and down into the area all the way to the very southern tip. I mean, this is truly the very southern tip of Iraq. And I'll show you all this really quickly, because this little town right here at Al Fall, this is the most southerly town in Iraq. Like, no joke. This is as south as it gets within this region of the country. And from what we know, a massive explosion happened here very recently. There was a report of an explosion that happened at Al Fall, right along the Iraq-Iran border, and then right after that, we actually got footage of the explosion site, and it appears to have been a very large and very damaging explosion in this area. We don't know what caused it. We're not sure if this was some kind of an IRCG movement across the river that ended up going badly and they blew up on the other side. We're not entirely sure, but the damage was quite significant.
Sounds like the town community has gathered together to commentate on this disaster.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like everyone wanted to come by and see something interesting. But that's the end of that clip right there. But once again, showing us that things are going on, some fairly mysterious things. We actually do not know what that is really a part of. It was an unknown explosion from an unknown source within the area. It's not along an official border crossing as well, which is leading me to believe that it was probably some sort of a clandestine thing that exploded in this area, either in ammo transport or an ammo cache that ended up blowing up in this town, because it is just south of Basra, which is where the border crossing in between Iraq and Iran exists. But moving on from that, and then all the way over to the At-Tanf garrison within Syria, which is currently controlled by U.S. forces, we were able to see, according to satellite footage, that they have now built a temporary airstrip within the area of the At-Tanf garrison. To actually show y'all specifically where that is in Syria, I'm going to be taking y'all over here on satellite view and giving y'all a little bit of an idea. So, here's the area around At-Tanf. This... Let's see here. Let me go find it. Here we go. Here is the base at At-Tanf right here. Tower 52 was along the Jordanian border. Somewhere down here, I believe this is Tower 52 right there. That's where the 3 U.S. service members were killed in an attack last year. Just to remind you all of that, but that is a part of the At-Tanf garrison perimeter, because there's actually a multitude of towers that are set up like that around the At-Tanf perimeter to try and give a bit of a screen to the main force at the garrison, so that way if an attack is coming, they kind of get a better idea of where it is and what kind of force size is involved in that upcoming attack. But right outside of the garrison, and right over here, where this interesting pool system sort of a deal is, they have built a temporary airstrip just north of that within the salt flat. Now, you can kind of see something that looks a little bit like a temporary airstrip, or at least the outline of one right here, but this is the first time that we've actually seen them pretty much like beat out an area on this dried up lake bed to have a temporary airstrip. This is an incredibly rough one, and this is not going to be operating any form of fine-tuned American fighting machines like the F-16, the F-15, or the F-22, or the F-35. This is a fairly rough airfield that is going to probably be used by the more robust airlift aircraft of the U.S. Air Force like the C-130 Hercules. We don't know why they would be building an airstrip like this, but there are a couple of reasons that we can come up with. If they're trying to make an ability for Azov garrison to have a rapid surge force arrive and start to further build up the garrison at Azov, that most likely would be done by an airlift, and the C-130s would probably be transporting the troops and equipment to Azov, and so this temporary airstrip would be needed. There is also the possibility that this may be in preparation of a high casualty event around the Azov garrison, as they'll most likely require heavier airlifts out of the area if there's a large amount of wounded and possibly killed as well, which may be another reason why the Azov airstrip is being made at the moment. But those are two plausible reasons that I can come up with. It may also just be for general resupply of Azov. They may have started to see that maybe there's going to be a hotbed of Iranian proxy activities surrounding the garrison, which will make a road-based resupply of the garrison pretty unlikely or very difficult to pull off. And so instead of risking a convoy trying to get down the road and possibly taking losses, they're just going to fly in the supplies for the Azov garrison at the temporary airstrip. So that's a third likely option that we could be seeing for the reason why this has been made. But still, once again showing that the United States, at least on a very low-key level, is starting to make more preparations for something that may be happening in the Middle East very soon that could involve the United States. A war will happen in between Israel and Iran at this point, that is very certain. But a war involving the United States is a little uncertain. But it looks like the United States is making preparations just in case if that does happen, they will be ready and they won't be caught off guard. But a lot of people have been hearing about the statement made by the Secretary of State today about U.S. intel suggesting that Iran will attack in the next 24 hours against Israel. And a lot of people are throwing in their 2 cents on whether they believe this recent assessment is accurate or inaccurate, or whether it is or isn't. And a lot of people are actually saying that it sounds fairly reasonable. Some people are saying that it sounds like pure guesswork and it's probably got no founding in reality at all. Some people are saying, I'm not going to guess. And then others are a little bit unsure and undecided. But Matthew, what are people really thinking about the statement made by the Secretary of State today? Do they believe that a war will break out within 24 hours in this area? Or do they believe that it's probably a wild guess like really every other timetable has been so far, and that it may be a little bit even farther down the line or in the future?
So it looks like 49% of the audience said it sounds reasonable to me that Iran will attack in the next 24 hours, according to U.S. intelligence, while 21% said no, it sounds like pure guesswork to me, and 18% said, I'm really not going to guess. And one thing I will say, like the enforcer also mentioned, this is purely crystal balling, because right now, what we're being told is Iran will give very little, if any, notice whatsoever when they start their attack. So right now, this is pretty much guesswork on the part of U.S. intel as well. They really don't know either, but their hunch is it'll be the next 24 hours. One thing that I will note, sort of indicating that it might actually happen in the next 24 hours, is it appears that the markets around the world are having some trouble. Futures are not looking very good. Also, the Japanese stock market appears to have taken quite a big tumble, and also the cryptocurrency market is not doing well either. So it looks like maybe investors. What was that?
My CryptoPunks, man.
Oh yeah, man, those Dogecoins, you got to always factor those in. But it looks like at least investors around the world are worried about a war breaking out. So this could be a rough Monday that starts tomorrow. I'm not sure if it will be or not, but it looks like it could be a rough one for the market, indicating that investors are worried. So I'm also a bit worried myself. It looks like it could go down, but I'm not really ready to commit to say it's going to happen in the next 24 hours for a certainty. So I'm going to be with the 12%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I would also have to be with the 21%, actually. And I would have to say it seems a little bit like guesswork to me. Now, that's something interesting to say, saying that the Secretary of State a very high up person, at least within the executive branch of the U.S. government, would be conducting guesswork. But we do have to remember that the Department of Defense also put out some guesswork as well a little while ago and said that the attack would happen within 72 hours. And the attack didn't happen in 72 hours. It's now about 96 hours on from the beginning of that window that was announced, and no attack has happened yet. So I would have to say that most of this is predictions or crystal balling, as we call it on this channel, as they try and figure out when it's actually going to happen. The reality is that it doesn't matter when it's going to happen. We know it's happening soon. It doesn't matter the specific day or the hour that it's going to happen. That's really for people who gamble and want to place bets, because the reality is that that just doesn't really matter. What matters is that we know it's coming, and so forces in the area should be on high alert and vigilant, waiting for this attack to begin. We don't know exactly when it will begin. It will be soon, but we don't know what time or what day. So everyone just has to be sitting by and ready for that. And so for that reason, considering that an exact date and time that this will begin is not really the matter, it's just making sure that the forces in the area are ready to defend themselves for this upcoming attack. That's really all that matters. I would say that this is most likely some wild guesswork on the Secretary of State's end, because this kind of predictions or calculating on the government's end isn't exactly necessary, and it's not really needed, because, you know, like, let me explain it this way. So we know that Iran's going to attack. So the U.S. forces and Israeli forces have been on high alert for days now, like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They have been on high alert, and they're waiting for this attack to happen. So what does it matter if it happens right now or tomorrow? The forces are already on high alert, and everything is going to play out the exact same way, at least at this point, whether it is right now or tomorrow. So what does it matter for the Secretary of State to have a specific idea as to what hour and what time this attack is going to happen, or at least to have a window? It does not matter, because all of the chips have already been put into place by both sides, that once Iran executes this attack plan, everything is going to unfold the exact same way, no matter what time or what day it is. So that's why I'm saying it's a wild goose chase, because the Secretary of State's probably just trying to answer a question that's being put out, because people in the public really do like to have, like, very clear answers to things, like, when will that happen? Like, when will this attack begin? And so the Secretary of State is under a bit of pressure to come up with something, but the reality is that on a governmental level, coming up with a specific time this is going to happen doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't at all. So I would say it's a wild goose chase.
I wonder what the Iranians are really holding off for, because they're probably trying to weigh their options, even though they're not really talking and they sound like they're ready to basically, you know, jump right into the deep end. They're probably a little bit worried because they know it's not going to go good for them no matter who helps them. So, also, Enforcer, pull up that meme on the likes tab, by the way, on the Twitter page real quick.
Oh,
Just show
dude.
that meme real quick, man. I think the Iranians might be so worried that they have this mental image in their head that something might happen to them. They might turn into a ghost. But let's see that meme, Enforcer. I need to see that. I'm on my meme game today on Twitter.
Hang on, I gotta go find it. Dude, you've been posting like a million tweets, man. Like, I
It's
was
under the
like,
likes tab, by the way.
oh, I know, I got it. I got it right here.
Yeah. The Iranian officials said today, "We don't care if our response to Israel causes a regional war." Meanwhile, this is the Iranian leadership, and this is how they'll look after Israel grants their wish. And look at that. The ghost of Christmas past. It's right there, man.
Bro,
But you know the Iranians are running this through their head. Like, they're thinking, this could go really, really bad for us, and we need to think this through.
Bro, that's Hania in hell right now, right there. Like, ooh, that's, you know, it's like, dude, that's him trying to fan out the flames after the bomb blew up in the room. He's like, ooh, he's like, bro, I'm dead. It doesn't matter. But beyond that, I would have to say that the timetable doesn't really matter. It's going to happen. It's just that we don't know when. I hope that that's the best thing we can kind of get out of that, at least at this point right now. But with that, I hope that does address that the best we can, at least with the information that we have, at least based off of our assumptions and our knowledge. But still, it's been one hell of a week down there in the Middle East. It's also been one hell of a week in Ukraine. Now, before we move on to some of our last bits of news in this area, which actually have to pertain directly to the northern border of Israel, where right now we see that Israeli forces truly are on high alert, and also down into the area of the Gaza Strip, where we also see that there is a pretty decent discovery that was made today, which was pretty interesting to say the least. There is something that I want to say really quickly, because I didn't really get to cover this too much a second ago, but this is really the reason why we run streams tonight. Because you see, our channel runs 6 days a week, and I'm sure a lot of people are just watching us brand new right now because we've gotten about 100,000 views in 1 hour. So I'm knowing that a lot of y'all are brand new, and going off of that number, I know once again YouTube is still auditing us. It's just that the amount of viewers here are so high tonight, even auditing the stream, it's registering that there's about 10,000 people. Now 9,000 people here. But at the peak tonight, there was about 12. But beyond that, I gotta say that the fundraiser has been doing absolutely insane tonight. We have reached a whopping $3.7 thousand, nearly. It's $3,616 to be exact. Usually whenever I say that number, it goes up right when I'm saying it, so I was trying to account for that, but it's really $3,616 that have been raised in just about an hour. That is an absolutely incredible number. We run the stream 6 days a week, but really, if we were not including the Sunday night fundraisers, it'd really only be about 5 days a week. And the whole reason we come on air during these nights is to run a fundraiser and try and help out and help make a bit of a difference, at least in the news we're covering around the world. And that is something that is actually pretty crazy. A lot of people may or may not know this, but on Sundays, Matthew and me work all day, no joke, absolutely free. We don't make a cent these days, and it's entirely because we just want to have an impact and help out over around the world and use the Lee Spring Army as a force of good. It's particularly for nonprofits like Save the Children that help to save children from bad situations around the world, but also help out a lot in Ukraine, have helped to save hundreds of thousands of children from very bad situations inside of Ukraine. Now, another thing that I want to put out there, because many of y'all may know that there's this whole drama going on right now with the biggest channel on YouTube and how they are not sincere about some of the things they say, possibly. Of course, that's alleged. Some people are putting that out there at the moment. But I do want to show y'all this because we are running a live stream right now. And if we were making anything, it would show up on our control board. So I'm actually going to show y'all a behind the scenes look at my control board because I feel like that kind of transparency is required, especially considering that so many of y'all are brand new and y'all don't know anything about our fundraisers or how they run. But I'm going to show you this really quickly. This channel has raised almost $3,700 right now at this point for Save the Children. You can see that down at the bottom screen, down at the bottom of the stream window when it's running. So this is my control room right here that I'm seeing. So you can see all of the stats that, like I would see them live on my second screen when the stream is running. You can see chat revenue right here is registered at a flat 0. There's nothing there. And the monetization on the stream is also off as well, meaning that we do not make a single dime running the stream. The entire reason we run it is to run this fundraiser like we are tonight and to be able to actually help out like we were saying just a moment ago. That is a very important thing to Matthew and me, and that's why for 2.5 years now, I was trying to think of the exact number, it's getting close to 3 almost, but for 2.5 years, we have run the stream day in and day out, without break, without stopping, and we have run Sunday night fundraisers every single Sunday, not making a single dime or a single cent running this channel, entirely because we just want to help out around the world and actually let our community, which is the Lee Spring Army, do absolutely incredible things. I wanted to make sure to put that out specifically tonight because, like I was saying a minute ago, and I feel like I really have to hit this home, there is a really big scandal that's going on YouTube where people are saying that a channel that does philanthropy or tries to look like they do good things isn't actually out there to do good things, and they're really just doing it to try and get more viewers and more subscribers. But at the same time, they're also making money off of it because, they own private jets and they wear Gucci clothes and own supercars and all that kind of stuff, which, from what we know based on interviews, that's true. So going off of that, I hope that shows y'all how our fundraiser runs. Also, to explain a little bit more about it for everyone that's new, our fundraisers are not run through some sort of like a third party where it's kind of questionable where the money really is going, and it's also not run by us where y'all give us the money and then we give it to someone. Our fundraisers are actually run through a system built into YouTube called YouTube Giving. YouTube Giving is a system that YouTube set up several years ago so that way YouTubers could select nonprofits that are registered inside the United States and run those fundraisers through YouTube, and YouTube will do all of the accounting and then we'll send the money to that 501c3 nonprofit. So that's what we use here on this channel. So we actually have no involvement in gathering up the funds and then sending them off. YouTube does that entirely. So Richard McGurl throws in a 50 like he just did right there to Save the Children. Hey! And that money then goes into a bank account that was just made by YouTube a few hours ago when I created the fundraiser. That money is then held until YouTube is able to do all of the accounting on it. They deduct no fees from it. So if you send in $50 to this fundraiser, $50 will end up in the end going directly to Save the Children. And so they hold it in that bank account. They do all of the accounting. They do all of the paperwork, which is actually a lot if you ever run a fundraiser correctly. A lot of people run them out there in something of a very questionable manner. It wouldn't fall within the confines of the law, which is why we've never run a fundraiser really any other way, because getting into that, there's a lot of legal paperwork and a lot of fees that are involved in trying to get to that point to be able to run a solid nonprofit and a fundraiser just one time. So that's why we also do it through YouTube Gives, so that way it's entirely above board and legal. And then once all of that accounting is done, YouTube sends that money from that specific earmarked account from this channel straight to the nonprofit that it was fundraised for. So at this point, $3,800 will be sent directly to Save the Children once this fundraiser rounds out, probably about a few days from now, 4 or 5 days. As Brittany Taz throws in a 500. Damn!
Let's go.
Damn, that is crazy. That is insane. And I gotta say, amazing stuff right there. I love to see it. And speaking of which, we have to give a shout out to all of the top donors of the night. And so, Matthew, starting off with Brittany Taz, of course, who are our top donors of tonight's fundraiser?
All right, so we've had some whopper donations coming in tonight, like the $250 that just came in from Nicholas Condor. And thank you very much, Nicholas, for that generosity to the fundraiser. A really great cause tonight. And also, once again, huge shout out to Brittany Taz, who put in that $500. That is the biggest donation of the night. Huge shout out to Brittany as well. And then a massive shout out to Hal Rose, who put in a $333, along with Andy L, who put in $250, as well as Herta Corgis, who came in with a $250 as well. And then we have a $100 from some guy called the Enforcer, as well as Snow White, BCR, and then we have Hal Rose putting in another 100, along with Dalton McKee putting in a 100 as well, and with also Gene Kustra, and then also a 54 from Paramecium 13, along with a 50 from Purple Gerbil, Gregory Albright, Panama Floyd, Pumpkin Patch, as well as James Alexander, Avir Anthony, Mike Smith, Dad Good, let's see here, Ted Mitchell, Greg Carrier, Toons Nod, as well as Richard McGurl. And once again, I know we can only call off the top donors, but huge shout out to everybody for donating once again. We're up to $4,480, which is well above the goal, and that is impressive to see literally every single Sunday. So thank you all very much for that. And also, while I'm at it, let me get rid of a bot. But Enforcer, what say you?
Oh, man. Let's see here. Oh, there you go. You got him. I was waiting for that. But still, a huge shout out to every single person who has supported the fundraiser tonight, both the folks that we can call out and the folks we can't call out. There are so many donors that have supported this fundraiser tonight and are having a massive effort and a massive help in the kind of news we cover and changing, at least in a small way, the outcome. Thanks to y'all tonight. And the funds that have been raised, hopefully Save the Children is able to move another family away from a war zone and help them to get into relative safety. Hopefully, we'll be able to see that that family is fed and provided for, and all the families that have been relocated can be fed and provided for and helped out through Save the Children. It is an amazing thing what y'all have done tonight, both for the folks that we were able to call out and the folks that we weren't able to call out. It is not us who make these fundraisers possible and the kind of impact and the help that they have around the world. In reality, it is actually y'all, the Lee Spring Army itself, and the masses, the countless hundreds of thousands of y'all who help to make the impact that this channel has possible and helps to make sure that the Lee Spring Army truly is a pro-Western force for good in the world. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least with what we have in front of us, which is an unbelievable fundraiser. And with that, it is time for us to take a couple of questions. And so, Matthew, what do we got?
All right. So also, folks, just a PSA. If you have a question for us tonight, we're not doing the super chats. It's only the fundraiser tonight. So if you have a question, put @EnforcerMatt in the chat and also your question behind it, and we can add it to our spreadsheet, and hopefully we'll have enough time to get to pretty much all of them tonight, but we'll have to see. But with that, we're jumping into our first question, which goes to Billy Seville. He said, has anyone heard any updates on when Ukraine will receive the Saab jamming planes?
We have not heard about them receiving any Saab jamming planes soon. We do know that the Swedish government said they were going to be giving a couple of those. I believe there's some sort of an Embraer jammer systems, but we have not heard of them arriving yet. I believe those are actually some sort of a Saab private plane or something along those lines. But beyond that, we do not know when those are going to be arriving. We know that the Swedish government has pledged those, but we don't know of a tentative arrival date at this point. And so I hope I was able to answer that question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and looking through here, it looks like our second question is going to go to Andy L., the longtime channel legend, and he
Hey!
says supposedly a high-ranking Jordan official went to Iran today for the first time in 20 years. And have you heard that? And me personally, I have not heard that. Right now, that would be a little bit surprising, in my opinion, if that is true, because Jordan has already threatened to shoot down Iranian missiles if they fly through their territory. So the tensions are a little bit cold between those two countries right now. So if it happened, I have not heard about it. But Enforcer, what say you?
I haven't heard about that either. Maybe that is a Jordanian attempt at some form of diplomacy with Iran, trying to make them back off of their claims that they're making at the moment, but I have not heard of that at the moment, sadly, Andy. So I'd actually have to declare ignorance on that for the moment, because I haven't heard of that development happening. Also, like Matthew was saying, the diplomatic relations in between the Kingdom of Jordan and the Islamic Republic of Iran are actually fairly low. They're not on good terms. Jordan is a very openly Western country, and they have a massive amount of arms support that they have been provided specifically by the British historically that makes them an incredibly pro-Western country. And so if that did happen, that's incredibly interesting, but I would not know of any specific details about that or whether that happened at all today. So unfortunately, I have to declare ignorance on it. But still, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least with the knowledge I have at the moment on that. And with that, we are on to the last question of the segment, and then we're going to be moving back into the Middle East news, and then we're going to be shifting all the way up into Ukraine to cover the remainder of the Ukraine war news.
All right, so this one right here is going to go to Paramecium 13, who says, do you have any update on the bill? I assume he's talking about the bill about declaring war on Iran by the United States. He said, when is Congress next in session? Enforcer, you can handle that. I'll actually pull it up real quick and see if I can spot any info about that bill.
Got you. At the moment, from what we understand, it's still waiting to be voted on. I think the next congressional session starts during this upcoming week, during the weekdays. I don't think there's any congressional sessions held during weekends, so I think that's why there's been no action made on it at the moment. Of course, there could be some sort of an emergency congressional session that could be held that does go over the weekends, but at the moment, I don't think that's the case, and so I think that still has not been put up to a vote yet, and they're probably going to be waiting to try and see what kind of decision they can make on that at this time. And I'm really just trying to filibuster so that way Matthew can get some additional information on that. And Matthew, it sounds like you may have something.
So I'm looking here. I'm looking on Congress.gov. It looks like it's still in the introduction phase, and it's been referred to the Committee on Foreign Relations. So that was the last status we heard as well. So it really hasn't moved any. So I'm not really sure when Congress is going to once again reconvene. So it could be a while, really. And like I mentioned last time, it only has one sponsor on it. So I'm not sure if this is really going to get anywhere anyway. But I guess the mere fact that it's been introduced says a lot. So we'll just have to wait and see.
We will have to wait and see. And so at the moment, it seems as though it may be just sitting around. It hasn't been shot down yet, but it also hasn't had a vote held on it either. So we don't really know where that's going to be going, but hopefully it's going good places in the future. And so with that, also Jason Curling said, I feel like it'll be voted down. I can't really say for certain. Who knows? Maybe it will be approved. I would believe that to be a little bit weird, because usually like there's this really big stigma in the government that no one wants to get called a war hawk, even if the possibility of an armed force needing to be used is necessary. No one really wants to get called the war hawk, so when it's put up to a congressional vote, then people want to have cold feet. So I would have to say, I would also believe that there's probably a good chance this is going to get shot down, but there's also a little bit of a chance out there it may actually get a lot of consideration and get voted on and approved, and then move to the House of Representatives, because this is actually a bill that has been put forward in the Senate. So instead of it originating in the House and then moving up to the Senate, once it's voted on in the Senate, it has to actually move down to the House, and then it gets sent off to the President. Or if there's any revisions on it, I believe they then approve it in the House, then send it back to the Senate, and then the Senate approves the revised version, and then they send it to the President. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. But we also have to remember that there's another caveat to it, is that it also has to be approved by the president as well. And at the moment, it seems as though the president of the United States does not want Israel to even conduct really any actions at all at the moment, even with a war on the horizon at this point, an Iranian attack coming. They really don't even want them to do anything in the upcoming attack, or possibly retaliate against Iran for the attack that will be happening. So that could also throw in another obstacle into that as well. I'm trying to make sure to speak on that as neutrally and objectively as possible, just listing some of the ways forward that it may have or the ways that it can be shot down, because it's not just the Congress that has to approve. This is also the president as well. And the president could try and veto that decision if possible, and then it's dead in the water at that point. But with that, I hope
also, Enforcer, I've got some very big breaking news coming out right now. This has to do with economic news right here. And also, this might be a little bit jumbled. I'm trying to decipher the news as it's coming in, but it looks like markets around the world are crashing as we speak, very badly, like horrifically, actually. It looks like South Korea just halted selling and also selling orders as trading looks like their stock market has crashed. Let's see here. I'm looking here. It looks like Japan is going into an economic crisis. They're seeing right now an even larger drop than the Black Monday crash of 1987. That is a massive drop.
Dang.
That's not good to see. And also, the U.S. futures are going much more red than they were a moment ago. So it is looking horrific right now for the market. I'm not sure if it's going to stay this way or not, or what's happening, but it looks like a lot of people are dumping stocks, including crypto as well. So it looks like the fears of war and also other factors are catching up.
Sounds like, at least on the economic end, a lot of people are really expecting that a war is coming, because this sounds a lot like what happened with the Russian stock market right before the war in Ukraine began, is that they started to take a pretty strong downturn as well, and then they began to invade Ukraine. So this could be showing that there is a really strong indicator, at least at higher economic levels, and it's now pretty much turned into, what would this be called, Matthew? A bull run or something along that lines by everyone in the economy to try and get ahead of the curve.
So this definitely is not a bull run. A bull run is when somebody drives it up. So this one right here, I would say would be a crash. Yeah, this is somebody's about to get smushed at the bottom that's not paying attention, basically. But it's a lot of, like, for example, Buffett yesterday, he dropped 50% of his Apple stock, which is very unusual. And now Berkshire Hathaway has the largest amount of cash on hand that they've had in, like, I think the history of the fund or something like that. So a lot of people seem to have some information indicating that the markets aren't looking good.
Interesting. I'll say this, everyone. I may know a lot about diplomacy, and I may know a good bit about the military and how militaries around the world work, but economics is not my strong suit. Someone's about to come in here in the live chat and say, "You're an idiot when it comes to economics," and don't insult me, don't be rude, but secondly, that is true, but don't be rude about it. So that's why I said bull run, because it's like, I don't know, I've heard that one before. That sounds like someone's getting trampled at that point, so I would go with that. But with that,
it could be a bull run. I mean, somebody's going to get trampled. Like when crashes like this happen, there's always the people that see it coming and they take proactive action, and then there's the people that kind of like wait, like, you know, if I hold it, I'll be good. It'll go back up, and then like sometimes it doesn't go back up, and then you're smushed.
Oh yeah, man, someone's getting trampled, that's for sure. Someone is going to be crushed by the weight of this, and who knows who it will be, but we'll have to wait and see. I'll tell you all this though. Me personally, the reason why I'm not really panicking about that too much is because I don't have my freaking heckin' little crypto punks, and I also don't invest in stocks. So for me, it's just a whatever, because, you know, I just put everything I have in the bank and just hold it there. So as long as the bank doesn't collapse, I'll be fine. And then even it's FDIC insured, so, you know, it's like, this is no big deal to me. But anyways, moving on from that and on into northern Israel. We have some really big news coming out of northern Israel tonight. We can see that the Israeli Defense Force is using star shells. Some people are calling these flares. These aren't flares. These are star shells, a specific kind of an incendiary round that is meant to loiter in the air and burn really, really brightly, and it pretty much works as an artificial sun, at least on a small scale, and it helps to illuminate a fairly large area on the ground. You use this when you don't have an extremely high amount of night vision or infrared devices available. You fire these things off, which help to illuminate the ground below them for a little bit of a time, and then you start firing off more of them once that one's about to hit the ground. But apparently, the reason why the Israeli Defense Forces are doing this at this very moment is that they are preparing for the possibility of infiltration attempts to occur in the north. And the Israelis said, "Our eyes are on the ground, not in the sky. We are preparing for terrorist infiltration attempts and unexpected scenarios," which is the reason why these star shells are being fired off at this very moment. And we also got to hear additional news that there was a drone infiltration that occurred in the north, and there were apparently reported casualties. We've not been able to get an exact figure on these casualties, but we can see the interception right here, or more so the infiltration. But that's the end of that clip right there. You didn't get to see the explosion, but you could see the drone diving onto the ground at excessively high speeds. But once again, there are casualties that are reported at this moment. We'll be trying to get more information about who may have been wounded or killed in the following day, most likely. But moving on from that and down into the Gaza Strip, we also got to hear that the Israelis uncovered a tunnel. A pretty big tunnel. It's a massive tunnel. It's big enough you can drive a Humvee through it. That's the entrance of the tunnel in the Gaza Strip. And what's interesting about this is that it actually travels quite a considerable distance all the way into the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt. And so this is how they were getting the weapons in and out of the Gaza Strip. That was how. They built a tunnel under the border. So the Israelis built this big-ass wall. Well, not really. Well, kind of here, actually. It kind of was. But they built this giant perimeter barrier area right here. You can see it right over here. This is the 1950 Armistice Agreement line. They built this huge border wall on it. It's a massive, well-armed perimeter. They also had one along the Gaza Strip's border down here as well. But it's not really that defended compared to the rest of the border, where IDF forces are along it. IDF forces, from what I understand, are not directly along this border wall, but the Israelis did build it. And apparently, the Hamas forces in Rafah just dug right under the wall and to the other side in the Sinai Peninsula. And so when everyone was asking the question, how in the world was Hamas getting in all of these weapons into the Gaza Strip? Because they are completely cut off on overground, and they're also cut off from air access because there's no airfields inside the Gaza Strip. How in the world did they get all these weapons in? They literally were just smuggling them in through a giant tunnel underground. They just drove the truck straight through it, right into the Gaza Strip, and then would just unload the weapons wherever they wanted them to be. So that's actually how they did it. And so now we know that there's a fairly decent, we would assume, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps presence within the Sinai Peninsula, at a minimum in Egypt, which I would have to say that seems a bit like a security concern, at least for the West, and I feel like there should be a large amount of pressure put on the Egyptian government to try and figure out where these sympathizers are or where these IRGC elements are, and to try and either deport them or take them out, one or the other, because that is a very concerning thing to have in the middle of the Sinai Peninsula, and not only that, near the Suez Canal, meaning that possible terrorist activities could also be conducted on the Suez Canal as well, considering that these operatives are around that area at this very moment. But with that, we're now going to be moving on from the Middle East news and everything going on down there. But before we roll on out like an Autobot and back up into Ukraine, what do you think is causing that global panic in the stock markets starting to take a tumble around the world? And a lot of people are saying that's a fear of a regional war starting. Some others are saying it's a normal market correction. Some people are saying it seems like political issues, which we really can't get into that much here on the channel. And some people are saying that they're unsure and undecided. But Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about this as well? Because to be honest with you, I'd have to go with unsure and undecided off the bat. I don't know enough about economics, but what are you thinking?
So it looks like 61% of the audience said it's fears of a regional war starting in the Middle East that's causing the dive in the stock markets around the world, while 19% said it seems like a normal market correction, and 12% said it seems like political issues. And to me, I would really say with the 61%, it is fears of a regional war starting, because this was a very sudden issue happening with the markets, and we're really not sure just yet how bad it's really going to be, because it's still, of course, Sunday night. The U.S. markets have not opened. Those will open tomorrow morning, and then we'll really find out. So whoever's out there holding NVIDIA stock, by the way, it's officially down 30%. So I know some people were like, oh, NVIDIA's going to the moon. I don't know about that anymore, but we'll have to see. But I'll be with the 62%. But Enforcer, you said unsure and undecided. That's right.
Oh, yeah, man. I wouldn't even know how to weigh in on that. So I think you have the best opinion on that one. It's so that
the moon?
Man, to the moon? Yeah. Like,
Stonks?
sure. Stonks?
Man,
Dude.
calling the Wall Street bets people, they're about to be going wild buying the diff. Like, just watch, they're going to get in some trouble.
Oh, yeah, they will. They will get into trouble. Do you remember when they did that GameStop thing? I know that was a bull run. The GameStop bull run.
I remember that. Some people got really crushed on that one.
And then of course everyone wanted to go, we need action so that way they can't do this again. It's like, oh come on. It's like it was just a little bit of trolling, classic trolling, just on an economic scale.
the Wall Street Bets people like almost single-handedly saved GameStop. It was like almost irrelevant. Like it was really having some financial trouble, and they started, I don't know if you want to call it a pump and dump or what. I'll let y'all leave it up to you what you want to call it. But it went crazy high, then it went boom, it went to the bottom, then it went crazy high again. It keeps doing that. Like I think it did it again here recently as well. They keep doing that over and over and over. And there's one guy out there that made a ton off of it. I can't remember his name, but y'all seen him on like CNBC and other places. He really got notoriety from it. So, I'm not a big person in the stock market myself, really. I have a Roth IRA, but I'm just in the index funds. I'm not in like individual stocks. I'm not knowledgeable enough to get into those. But I know some people out there are like, "Oh man, Nvidia to the moon." I hate it when people like get all caught up on Nvidia because it's like it's going to have its day where people get hurt from that stock, and it might be tomorrow. You never know.
Yeah, that's true. Also, I saw someone say, actually, it was a short squeeze, not a bull run. Look, man, I said I'm not an economic expert, man. You're acting like I know. You're acting like I know. I have no clue about anything in economics. Like, really. Like, you can ask me anything and everything. If it's about economics, do not take my advice. I'll put that out there just outright. But anyways, moving on from that and back up into Ukraine, it is now time for us to get on into the rest of that juicy news we have up here in this part of the land. And we got to see the 71st Jaeger Brigade on a raft. Pretty freaking cool.
Oh man, they're on like an Intex like pool raft out there. It's not even like a real big one.
Yeah, man, they got like 3 guys in this thing too. It's like, dang, that's kind of cramped or something. But when you see him walking through the woods, this guy here, he's got a nice AK-12. No, AK-74. And then we can see this guy right here. Nice AK mods. Really cool. And then we see this guy right here. Nice glasses, by the way. I like those glasses. I appreciate them. But still nice to see the 71st Jaeger Brigade in training. And then we had a whole bunch of stuff on the F-16s. Really the exact same stuff we've already shown. So we're not going to be showing that again because this is all just still pictures from the video that we showed over in Lviv. But we then got to see the first Skynex today, also in service with the Ukrainians. And here it is, set up right there. It is so cool looking. I love those things, really.
That is much larger than I thought. I don't know if it's like camera angle or what, but this thing looks massive.
Man, that thing is a little heckin' chonker right there. I'll tell you that, man. I mean, it's not a wholesome chungus, but it's a heckin' chonker, that's for sure. But we also got to see the Russian casualty report as well. And oh! Damn!
11 Bobcats. That's a tremendous catch right there. Also, let's see here. Someone said it looks like pretty much. Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. I would agree with that. Let's see. Miss Disa said UAVs include +5 adjustment by AFU to the prior total. Interesting. So there is a correction here.
And there is a correction. Apparently there's 5 drones not accounted for. But also, who is this guy?
Man, be careful.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. Romania. But got the flag of Palestine in the profile. I would say very unbiased source right there. This is the most laughable list maybe ever. Sadly, still not as bad as the list of things that this guy has done. But still, moving on from that, 1,150 Russian soldiers have been wounded and killed over the past 24 hours, along with 17 APCs destroyed, 80 supply trucks knocked out, along with 5 MBTs, 59 artillery pieces, 41 drones, 3 MLRSs, 2 cruise missiles, 3 anti-aircraft warfare systems, and the 11 Bombcat skid steers. Today was an incredibly good day. A very good day. Also, it's 46 drones, by the way, just adding in Miss Deese's correction there. But it was an incredibly good day for the Ukrainian defense. Huh?
What happened to the second sub? It's only showing 1. It says +0.
Huh, well, I guess, I
Miss
think
Disa, you didn't catch that.
Well, no, I think that one sub that they counted way back in the day was the Rostov on Don, and then they refloated it, and then they sank it again. So technically, it's still the same submarine that they sank, so it doesn't get added. I guess, maybe.
I say double it and give it to the next person.
Man, I have $500,000 in or something like that. Oh man, do you want to double it and give it to the next? Yes, I would like to double the allegations and give them to the next person. There's something like that. But anyways, moving on from that and out of our location unknowns and up into the area of Vovchansk, we did get to see the Ukrainians using some precision-guided aerial bombs to hit these Russian built-up positions. And wow, they built that thing down. My goodness.
And also, Miss Disa said it was the same sub. So you're correct, Enforcer, and also Miss Disa's correct, and I stand corrected. I am standing corrected. I'm not sitting corrected, I'm standing.
And now he's sitting down. Oh, dude, they
Now
got
I'm
the...
standing up.
Bro, the Call of Duty ghosts.
It's him. It's the guy that they always like put the really like hardcore like manly meme or something like that, where it's like men really suffer, and then it's like that guy turning to the camera and looking at it.
Oh, dude, man, don't remind me of those weeks. Like, bro, I'm an alpha Chad. Every single thing after that is just them whining and complaining. It's like, that doesn't really seem Chad-like to me. Like, I don't know. But anyways, moving on from that and down to the area of Oborodnivka, we also get to see a Ukrainian T-72 getting hit by a Russian Lancet and shrugging it off. When you see the Lancet coming in, and it hits the T-72, literally unfazed. One of the ERA tiles did explode right there, though. I don't know if you'll caught that. Like, and there it was right there. It just blew up. And then they just start rolling back. The ERA block is still on fire. It's some of the explosive filler burning on out. But still, the T-72 was A-okay. So, hey, it looks like the armor worked. Nice to see. Moving on from that, and all the way down the line into Bakhmut, we also get to see the 92nd Brigade hitting the Russians today in this area as well. And here we see drone flying into building. Half the building collapses.
Man, call the Ukrainian serve pros. They come in and it's like it never even happened.
Dude, that was a good one. I think I was shocked by this explosion though, because the walls literally like violently flew in every direction. But yes, it's like serve pro. Nothing ever happened. Oh, dude, what is up with these drones?
They're getting good at those. Like they know exactly where to hit.
Dude, the Israelis would call him like a 2,000-pound JDAM to do this. The Ukrainians need like 50 pounds in a dream. Like, they can do it with just that. Dude, this is insane. I gotta say, I think the Ukrainians are beating out the Israelis these days for demolition jobs. Like, they do the best. Look at that. Look at that. That's crazy. They're doing it with like, maybe like, not even 50 pounds of explosives. It's maybe like 20. And they're getting this kind of results. This is pretty impressive stuff.
It's almost like cheating, though. It's like the those people like smash like beer bottles on their head and stuff like that, and they're like sugar bottles. It's like these Russian buildings are already like pretty rough, like pretty badly put together to begin with. So one good little drone in the right spot's gonna like take the whole thing down.
Yeah,
but man, it's still spectacular nonetheless.
It's kind of like a house of cards, I suppose. A real proper house of cards. But moving on from that and down in the Makivka, we also got to see some explosions happening down here. We don't know what these were, and it was only a 3-second clip. So we have no idea, but we're going to be trying to get more information on that as time goes by. But we also got to see a Russian pilot that was filming himself just seconds after his unceremonious departure from his aircraft. Here is the clip. He's just looking down at the sky below. You can actually see his aircraft right down there. Looks to be like an Su-34 maybe, but it's going into the cloud cover below. Oh, they got that zoom. Su-27 maybe. And there's the pilot.
Сбили, блядь. Сложно, блядь, земля нахуй. Сейчас GPS-ку буду включать. Сети нету. Это пизда. Вообще ничего не успели сделать, блядь. Там сразу все выходили высоко нахуй.
Well, that's the end of the clip, but I think that guy he's not flying anymore. He's just kind of like falling with style. But moving on from that and into the area around Progress, we got to see some Ukrainian Max Pros conducting an evacuation of some Ukrainian soldiers that ended up getting in a small encirclement today. Here comes the Max Pros. Of course, Chads of the battlefield, much like the Bradleys. Nothing can really knock them out easily. It takes a little bit of concentration and focus of some firepower to be able to knock these things out, so they just effortlessly glide in, pick up the Ukrainians they need to, and then they leave. And we can see them getting to the Ukrainian soldiers right now. Nick Warala said, dedication, doing a podcast on the way down. I'm telling you. Oh, that was a close one.
Boom.
They're landing mortars near the scene, but the Max Pro don't care. In fact, the Max Pro doesn't give a damn about nothing. You want to drive that thing over gopher holes? No problem. The suspension will deal with it. You want to get hit by a mortar? No problem. The armor will deal with it. You want to deal with the inside of the thing looking like a box? That's no problem. The infantry can't fit in. It's a comfortable, luxurious kind of an armored vehicle, the kind of which that you'll never see in the Russian armed forces. And we can see the Max Pro pulling on up. I pull up! And then opening up the back doors so that way the infantry can get in. And
Man, I love those Max Pros. Like those things are so sick. Like every single time I hear people bash them, I'm like, don't bash those things. They are fantastic. If your life's been saved by that mobile rolling tank, you'll love them too. Like that is a really cool thing. It looks sick.
It is so sick. It is really neat.
Oh, it's scooting. That thing's hauling ass.
Yeah, dude, that thing was going.
Man, I thought they could only go like 45 miles an hour or something. That thing's like going like 60 or 70.
Dude, they don't play in those things, man. They get them going. And we see the Autobots rolling on out. I mean, they are unfazed by everything. Literally everything. And we see the artillery coming down as they are leaving, just trying to hit them on the way out, and I don't think the Russians will ever be able to succeed in that, because the Max Pro is driving through just fine. Well, you see the Max Pros are actually traveling so fast, they're leaving these giant smoke trails behind them like jets, almost like flying along the ground. And there they go round in the corner out of sight of this Ukrainian drone, I think it is. Actually, we see that Max Pro now going through the fields. We now see another drone moving in, looking at the smoke coming off of some of the craters. Oh, and we see artillery actually landing into the tree lines at this point, as another Max Pro is hauling ass out of there.
Man, there's like tons of these coming from everywhere. Now, this is sped up, right? Like this is definitely sped up.
I'm not sure. I don't think it is actually.
Man, that is wild. Like one wrong move or pothole or something like that. That thing being top heavy, it's going over.
Man, honestly though, man, I think that thing's like a freaking railway locomotive, dude. Like, one wrong move, watch out whatever's in front of this thing is going to be taking out, like, full-grown trees and stuff if it runs into it, and you're hardly going to be feeling it in that thing.
And what would happen if you rammed, like, a tank with one of those at, like, full speed? Like, would it demolish the tank or what?
It would probably demolish the Max Pro more so than anything, or both of them would just kind of bump together and everyone would get serious injuries inside of both vehicles, but the vehicles will be fine. One or the other, I'm not really sure, but here goes one of them, like, driving right under this drone.
Also, the gas mileage on that thing is horrific, so they're, like, emptying the fuel tank right now going at that speed.
Dude, that thing gets lighter as it goes. It gets eating up all that gas.
It's getting gallons per mile at this point instead of miles per gallon.
And we can see them both leaving. Both of them took different paths. I mean, dude, I've never seen vehicles that big booking it like that. That's bizarre. It's inhuman, really.
Why does it look like a Scooby-Doo, like, car chase or something like that when you're looking at this angle? It's like, you can hear that, like, Scooby music playing in the background.
Dude, and it just keeps going. I mean, like, nothing faces these guys. They just floor it. I mean, it does phase them. That's why they're still flooring it, because they don't want to become a target for the artillery. But, oh my goodness, dude. They're going like 90.
I gotta pull this up. What is the top speed? What is the top speed of an MRAP?
I think it's like 60 miles an hour, maybe.
Oh yeah, they're going to full speed at 65 miles an hour. That's the top speed, and that's what they're doing. Like they're probably maxed out in RPMs too.
Dude, you know the engines in there going as they're going down the road because it's literally the top speed. There's nothing above that. But anyways, with that, we're now moving on to our next little bit of news from the area where we got to see, once again, more M2 Bradleys. We love Bradleys. We can't show them enough. They're really cool. There they are. It's a Bradley. You just can't have enough of them. We can't have enough of them. And so moving on from that and on into our next bit of news, further down the line in Marinka, we also got to see a Russian BMP that ended up getting destroyed. So check this out. And we're going to be muting that. Whoa, 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 whoa. But when you see the drone coming in, smacking them. Oh, look at that. It's a pile of trash. It's a literal dumpster. They flew the drone right into the roof of the dumpster, hitting it. And it looks like it caught on fire even when they hit the roof of the dumpster. And it burned to the ground, actually. And there's the outro right there. Really nice to see. Good to know that they were slamming them hits. Moving on from that and down to Novomikhailivka, we also get to see a Russian Zala near the front lines. The 72nd found it, and here's what followed. What happened was shocking. See how the Ukrainians destroyed a Russian drone with one simple trick. And there it went. That Russian drone is destroyed. And Monstro Labs said, predict Max Pro is going to be the next hip vehicle for USA, in USA for rich kids. Hummers are so 90s. Hummers were never anything. Like, I don't even think anyone really liked the Hummer. Like I know
They were junk.
that's one hell of an outro right there, man. Jeez, like, I was like, dang, they got the Kremlin on fire in that thing. But still,
Also, can a civilian even buy a Max Pro? I thought you couldn't buy a vehicle with all that armor on it like that.
I don't think you can. So yeah, I don't think anyone's gonna be buying it, but I think it'd be cool if you could. I mean, like, dude, you would be
I'll
the
take one.
Yeah, I would take one. Dude, road rage would never happen. People would be like, do you see that thing? That thing's like 14 tons. I'm not getting in road rage with that. Like, I wouldn't. Like, if someone near me did something stupid in a Max Pro, I'm not road raging with them. I don't want to die. Like, I don't want to get crushed by the sheer weight of the thing. But moving on out of the area of Novomikhailivka, we're now moving all the way down into the area of Berislav, where we got to see that a saboteur weapons cache was found. In the Berislav district of the Kherson region, the Department of Military Counterintelligence of Ukraine seized 120 weapons from Russian saboteurs' warehouse. Here are the pictures. They were stocked. Like, they had some stuff. I guess this was left behind during the 2022 retreat from Kherson of the Russian army, but they just had loads of stuff sitting around inside of this warehouse that they could have just used at any moment. So luckily they never did use it, and luckily the Ukrainians were able to find the weapons cache and arrest the people who housed the weapons and also seize the weapons as well, as that, of course, poses a great danger in war. But with that, we are now moving on up to Kyiv, where we have the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 893 of the war. I forgot what day it was. I was about to say 793. It is not that. But this is actually the F-16 thing we saw earlier, but now we actually have the translation. And let me go and get that English translation for all of y'all.
Please hear about the long-lasting F-16s, the juicy, fine fighter jets. Can we hear more?
Yeah, I want to make sure that you do hear more. So without further ado, here is the speech.
Сьогодні ми вшановуємо силу та майстерність наших людей, завдяки яким небо України залишається українським. Тільки українським. Ворог не домінує і не буде домінувати в небі нашої держави. Так, з перших днів цієї війни. І так буде завжди. Російський окупант дуже сподівався знищити нашу українську авіацію та ППО, нашу спроможність захищати свою державу. Але українці цього не допустили. І це справжній героїзм, коли нашим воїнам повітряних сил довелось протистояти більшому повітряному флоту Росії, і Україна змогла досягти своїх цілей, змогла захищатись, змогла знищувати окупанта. Зараз новий етап в розвитку повітряних сил Збройних сил України. Ми багато зробили для того, щоб українські повітряні сили перейшли на новий стандарт авіації, на західну бойову авіацію. Від початку цієї війни Ми говорили з партнерами про те, що необхідно закрити наше українське небо від російських ракет, від російських літаків. Ми провели сотні зустрічей та перемовин, щоб зміцнити можливості нашої авіації, зміцнити можливості нашої ППО, наших сил оборони. Ми часто чули у відповідь слово «це неможливо», але все ж ми зробили можливим те, що було нашою амбіцією, нашою оборонною потребою. А тепер це дійсно реальність у нашому небі. F-16 в Україні. Ми забезпечили це. Я пишаюсь усіма нашими хлопцями, які якісно опановують ці літаки і вже почали їх використовувати для нашої держави. Я дякую нашій команді за цей важливий результат. Дякую партнерам, які справді дієво допомагають із F-16 і першими державам, які акцептували наш запит про надання літаків. Дякую. Данія, Нідерланди, Сполучені Штати і всі наші партнери. Ми цінуємо вашу підтримку. І бажаю нашим повітряним силам, усім нашим воїнам відчувати гордість українців, нашою бойовою авіацією і приносити Україні саме такі бойові результати. Слава повітряним Збройним силам України, слава нашому народу, слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Героям слава.
And there they are. Aren't they beautiful? Aren't they beautiful?
I'm not an
Gorgeous.
expert, but it looks like to me like those pilots know what they're doing. They're going around that corner pretty fast.
Man, they whipping it. But beyond that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky. A whole 2 hours into our news segment tonight, and that wraps up our news segment for the night as well. And that moves us on into the second segment of the stream, where we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all for the remainder of the stream. And I gotta say, what a night it has been. A crazy night at that. I mean, truly insane. I don't even know how to put this into words, put this into some kind of a metric, but it has been nuts. We have reached a peak viewership tonight of 11,000 live viewers. 11,000 of them, and 110,000 views so far in just 2 hours. This is the largest live stream that we have run in quite some time, even with the YouTube audit still going on this channel. I have to say that we are entirely grateful and appreciative and thankful for every single one of y'all watching. It is an absolute honor and a pleasure to know that so many people come to this channel and choose us as their primary source of news. It's been a crazy week. It's been an insane one. And now we are once again back to that kind of a speed that many of y'all saw a while ago on this channel, to where this channel ends up gaining about 1,000 subscribers a day. It was just on the 2nd of August, the morning of the 2nd of August, we were at 244,000 subscribers. Now, just really 2 days later, we are all the way up to 246,000 subscribers now, and are just less than 4,000 subscribers away from 250,000 subscribers here on the Enforcer channel. It has been one hell of a journey over the 893 days that we've continuously been covering the news of this war and news from around the world. To get to this point, it's been something absolutely crazy to see happening. It's really crazy to think that we're making those last final steps to that big number in my head that was always the magical number of 250,000 subscribers. I cannot believe that we're about to be there. I have to thank everyone so much once again for watching so far tonight. We still have a lot to go, so make sure to stick around for that, because we are going to be answering loads of live chats, because we have no super chats tonight. It's all live chats. But I just wanted to thank all of y'all once again so far for watching. And if y'all are new, and I know a lot of y'all have to be new, please make sure to subscribe, because if you really enjoyed this channel and you really like what we do, like we're doing tonight, we do this 6 days a week. We won't be doing this tomorrow unless if a war really does break out in the Middle East, and then we will of course run a emergency live stream at the very moment of the outbreak of a conflict, so y'all can expect that when it is coming around. But of course, make sure to subscribe, because if you just want to hear the news of what's going on around the world, not just in Ukraine, but in the Middle East and also East Asia as well, whenever that is going on, you can subscribe and you will be able to count on us being here at the same time every single night, getting to cover this news and tell y'all of everything going on around the world with video and picture evidence to back all of it up 100%. But still, I hope that does give y'all a huge thanks and a credit for everything that y'all have been through with us, everything that y'all have watched, everything that we've been able to witness together. And I just cannot put it into words enough how grateful, thankful, and appreciative we are that we were able to cover this news with all of y'all. And so with that, Matthew, take it away.
All right, so it's now time for the highly coveted final question segment of the night, and we have one more poll to address. It says, if a major regional war breaks out in the Middle East, do you think that life will change in the West? 44% said yes, the West will have to start a war economy, while 29% said somewhat, but not really, and 19% said no, the West will remain unfazed by it. And on this one, it's a little bit tricky. Once again, it's a bit of crystal balling here, but in my opinion, I think we would definitely not go unfazed by it. We would definitely be feeling the effects from that, because that would cause a lot of fear in the financial markets, as we're already seeing. I think this is correlated, that we're seeing currently crashes around the world, and also we're on the brink of war in the Middle East. So I think I'm with the 44%. The West would go into somewhat of a war economy. Even if we're not directly involved in the war, it might go that way in preparation for our involvement in it. So, Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that it does seem to me like the West will possibly start to shift a little bit into a war economy, although it's not going to be a war economy where pretty much all consumer goods cease production and it's nothing but the production of war materials like we saw in World War II. That probably will not be happening, but we will probably see that the United States will start to trade a lot less around the world, and there probably will be a greater emphasis on sourcing goods from the Americas, or trying to manufacture goods inside the United States or something else along those lines. So we'll probably see a decent amount of economic changes brought about because of the upcoming conflicts in the Middle East, but I wouldn't say it's going to be like a full-on World War II level war economy unless we were involved in a world war at that point. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the questions.
All right, and before we move into our questions here, we have one more top donation to address, and this one is from Ted Marshall. He threw in a $100 donation and brought us up to $4,770 raised on the fundraiser. Huge shout out to Ted for that massive donation. And we're also now moving on to our questions, and of course, we actually don't have the Morse code tonight. No one threw in the Morse code, from what I could tell. I don't see it in the spreadsheet. This is a catastrophe all the way around. What's happening? But anyways, Enforcer, do you recall what it said?
No. I
Oh,
don't.
no. Oh, no.
I did. I never write that down and save it. I just like type it up and then I, translate it and then I put it into the intro. So I actually do not know what it says anymore. So sadly, we don't have the Morse code tonight, but that's fine. I'm sure the Morse code decoders will be in the comment section overnight, and they will probably translate it and have it for all of y'all if y'all wanted to know what it was. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, in our first live chat right now, this segment is going to go to Clausen, who says, why did Russia want people who actively worked against the West, to the point we noticed, in exchange for their political prisoners who went there by free will?
That's a good question. The prisoner exchange sorts of things are really hard to explain. And so here's the way I'll explain it. The West in general makes prisoner exchanges, or hostage exchanges, if you want to call them that make no sense, at least in my opinion, not just from an American perspective, but really on any perspective. Like, for example, with Israel will do something like, okay, we'll give up like 500 cigarettes for like 30 Israeli citizens. And I get like the notion behind it that Americans, specific citizens of that country are more valuable than anything. But the truth is that there is a line that kind of has to be drawn. Like, we can't sit there and go, Bob the reporter is so important, we must give up the bringer of the apocalypse to get him back. Like, it's like, I don't really find that to be a fair trade, but the reason why the Russians want them back is because they want to continue their clandestine operations around the world. And so if the U.S. government is gullible enough to give up the bringer of the apocalypse for Jimmy, they will make that trade because it only benefits them in the end, and we get back a reporter that will just keep on reporting. So nothing really detrimental happens in the exchange in against Russia. It's only beneficial to Russia. So that's why they wanted to conduct that trade, and that's why they were really happy with the trade. But I see a lot of people saying different things, visibility, they do it for votes. Uh, here's the thing with the votes thing, though. It doesn't work. It never works because the prisoner exchanges are always looked at half positive and half bad. Like if the person in charge is in your political group, then everyone always looks at it as a good thing. But if they're not, they look at it as a bad thing. Me personally, not speaking about it on a political level, just speaking about it on what I see, I don't like it. Like we once again, like with Victor Bout and Brittany Grenner, we once again did a very unfair exchange. We don't really have anyone fair to trade with them, though. That's the thing. When we arrest someone and put them in prison, it's for good reason. And so everyone we have usually ends up being like the bringer of the apocalypse kind of a group of people. And then Russia will just arrest anyone. So it could be Bart, who went to Russia on a vacation, and then they charged him with espionage or something along those lines. But still, I don't really like that. On top of that, like I've said in the past, Americans should just have more common sense, in my opinion, when traveling abroad. Russia is an unfriendly country. Why would you travel to Russia knowing that they're an enemy largely of the United States and then go there and expect nothing to happen to you? Like they're going to pin anything they can, even if it's not true, against you because you're an American. So why go over there? That doesn't make any sense. Also, someone said they're hostages, not prisoners. Well, you can call them whatever you want with the Israel situation, hostages, prisoners. It doesn't matter. They're interchangeable things. They're people being detained by one government and being exchanged for a group of people detained by the other. So you can call them hostages, prisoners. It doesn't matter to me as long as the point's getting across. So hopefully my point's getting across here. But once again, I feel like Americans should just have a bit of common sense when traveling abroad. And if they get in stupid situations in countries that are not friends of the United States, then there's nothing that America can really do to help them. Because we tell our citizens, when you travel abroad, please exercise good judgment. Like, don't bring drugs to a foreign country. Don't murder anyone in a foreign country. Don't do anything stupid in a foreign country. Don't go to countries that don't like us. And then Americans go, oh, I'm going to go to Russia because, it might be a dictatorship, but at least the groceries are cheap. And then they show up and then they get arrested and put in prison. And it's like, well, the groceries were cheap, but now your ass is in prison. And so now the government has to put ourselves in a bad lurch. We have to end up releasing horrific people for just some goofy person who put themselves in a bad situation. And now, not only them, but their family in America is whining and complaining that the government isn't doing enough for their goofy relative that got themselves in a stupid situation because they were not exercising common sense. So I would have to say that's kind of the reason why that the exchanges turn out that way. But if that's the only way they can turn out, I say we shouldn't have them. And we should just, like we already do, the State Department should just tell people don't go to Russia, like it's not a good idea. And then they go and then they get in stupid situations. And then they want to act like the American government isn't looking out for them. It's like, no, we looked out for you when we told you not to go. You weren't looking out for yourself when you showed up. I don't feel like it's the government's responsibility to protect people from their own stupid decisions and their own stupid actions and the consequences of that, especially in that kind of an instance, because it's outside the United States' sovereignty, our jurisdiction. So what can we do? Like, we can't really do anything unless we put the government in a lurch. And I'm not going, and like, if I was the president, I'm not going to put the government in a lurch to get people out of Russian prison. Why did you go over there in the first place? We told you not to go and you went. It would be like, it's like Otto Warmbier. Like, I wouldn't have got, like, Otto Warmbier did something stupid, and then he got put in prison in North Korea. And, well, he got put in a labor camp, actually. But it's like, I would not put the American government in a stupid situation for Warmbier. He ripped down a poster in North Korea. That was a stupid thing to do. Who in the hell thought that would, like, why in the world would that even cross your mind? I'm in a dictatorial regime that is known for being cruel and brutal to really like 30%, 40% of its people every day. They're in labor camps and gulags. I'm going to rip down a poster. Like, that was a stupid thing. And then he went to prison in North Korea, and the American government in that situation did nothing to get his release. And the only reason he ended up coming back to America early is because the guy was pretty much dying at that point. So the North Koreans were like, well, let's just send him back to America. And then they did. Like that, at that point, that's the consequences of stupid actions. The American government is not going to put itself in a bad situation because of a individual's stupid actions. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Also, Jack Ray said, didn't the Lord of War dude get traded before? Yeah, that's Victor Bout. He was the one that we traded Brittany Grenner for. We traded the person that was such an evil arms dealer. We actually made a movie about the guy. Like, that's how evil his story is in a way. And
He armed everybody. If you were a bad guy, he was arming them.
yeah, and so we traded him for a basketball player. Like you know, I'm not talking about this on a political perspective. I'm talking about this on the parody of the trade. There was no parody there. Like we trade, well, they give us a basketball player that brought weed into Russia, like they did. Like that was proven. They did bring weed into Russia. Very stupid thing to do. And so then they ended up going to prison over there. It's like, hey, shouldn't have gone to Russia. Oh, I don't know why you went to Russia. Stupidity of your actions. You ought to deal with that. Like, that's your own problem. And then we trade the Lord of War, the Merchant of Death, for a basketball player that brought weed to Russia. It's two totally separate things. One guy was arming literally every evil person in the world, and the other one brought weed into Russia. Like, that's not a fair trade, like, at all. And like, with this one, that's not a fair trade either. And I'm not into having unfair trades. Like, if we're going to trade the Merchant of Death, we ought to be getting in exchange the Bringer of Death, or something along those lines. That would be my opinion on that kind of a deal. And you know, I feel like I have to hammer it home time and time again. Like I feel like I have to kind of reiterate the statement 3 times over, because I'm sure someone's about to say in the chat, "You don't care for Americans," or "You're just saying that because of so and so." No, like if you're an American citizen and you were dumb enough to go to an unfriendly country and get yourself in a stupid situation, the entirety of the nation, the 350 million people living in America, shouldn't have to pay the price on a governmental level for that one individual citizen's stupidity. That should not be the case. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. I thank you for asking a really good question, Klassen, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, in our next live chat question right here is going to go to Anonymous, and they said, I forgot, but can the UK strike any building, or can Ukraine strike any building with the F-16?
They can strike Russian buildings with the F-16 with the right kind of weaponry, so the answer to that would be yes, Anonymous. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least from what I would know. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, I saw somebody in the live chat, I forgot who it was. They had said something about, why don't we just bill the U.S. Citizens when we have to eventually bail them out from these bad situations? I mean, that's an idea, but the only catch is, though, for example, with Victor Boot, if you let him back out in exchange for the basketball player, and Victor Boot goes on to cause the deaths of like tens of thousands of people due to his illegal activities, there's really no amount of money that you can charge the basketball player to make that really even or a fair trade whatsoever, because people's lives are at stake. So, you know, people to see, like, they look at the prisoner exchange, they think, oh, it's just one person getting exchanged for another human, it's just whatever. But it's like, no, one of them is a basketball player who's relatively harmless, and the other one is like a cold-hearted killer that goes out and causes people's deaths in mass. The trade, like the enforcer said, the trade is not fair whatsoever. And to me, there's really no amount of money you could charge to really even that out.
Also, another thing, like just one more thing to hammer it home again, why in the world does the American government have to do something stupid? Like, it's openly stupid when you really look at this on a clinical level. Why do we have to put ourselves in a stupid situation because of a stupid citizen? For everyone in the country, like, we are going to possibly jeopardize the lives of everyone in this country, all 350 million of them. One of them, dozens of them, hundreds of them, thousands of them even, could get plastered by a bomb that Victor Bout sells to someone, like ISIS. Like, you know, he could go down there to ISIS. Victor Bout could sell them a nice, wonderful bomb, or at least the components to make a bomb, and then thousands of Americans, hundreds of Americans, or dozens of Americans could die from that bomb at some point in the future. We are putting 350 million people in this country in danger with that exchange because one stupid citizen from this country went to Russia with some weed on them. And so, because of that stupid decision that they made, knowing that that was illegal in Russia, and then they got caught and were held responsible for that in Russia, we are possibly going to put everyone's lives in America in jeopardy and screw everyone over, possibly because of that Dumbo right there. That makes no sense. Like, that's why I'm not for that trade. That's why I'm not for this trade either. Because once again, this trade's like, okay, we get a journalist that spoke out against the Russian government while inside of Russia, which is something that you just ought to know you shouldn't do. And then, and so the stupidity of their actions, of course, weighed into why they're in prison. And then we're going to trade them for actual assassins, hitmen, and stuff like that. It's like, that just doesn't make any sense. It's like, it doesn't. Like, we call it actual bad people. These Americans ended up getting in trouble in Russia because they're stupid. We shouldn't be trading for these people. Like, that's my honest opinion. Like, okay, so I'll say this, though. There is a caveat to that. If you got into trouble in an allied country, like, say, Italy, for some reason, and it didn't really seem like it was fair what you got in trouble for, yes, something could be arranged to get an American out in friendly countries. But if it's in a hostile country, no, we're not doing that. We're not putting ourselves in a bad situation, and we're not putting everyone in a bad situation because of you. Like, the world doesn't revolve around Brittany Grenner or some entitled journalist. There are 350 million Americans that we're having to account for here, and we're having to consider their safety concerns, and I'm going to put 350 million people over a single individual every single time when it comes to that kind of decision making. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. It may be the best wordage I can put out for that. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and moving on to our next one here, real quick, we do have another big donation that came in, this time from Purple Gerbil, who put in a $130 donation and brought us up to $4,878 on the fundraiser, which is tremendous to see, and huge shout out to you, Purple Gerbil, for bringing it up to that number. It's very beautiful. And with that, we're moving on to our next question, which goes to Michael McMahon. He said, how do y'all think the response would be if Iran launches its attack on Israel, and simultaneously, China hits Taiwan, North Korea hits South Korea, and Russia ups its war with Ukraine? That's what you'd call shit hitting the fan on that one.
Dang, that's literally a World War scenario pretty much right there. War just breaks out in every corner of the world at the same time. What would we do in that kind of a situation? That's a good question.
Picking and choosing. Which one's more important? Because one's probably going to be sacrificed, perhaps, depending on how bad it is.
Let's see. So let me Iran launches its attack on Israel. China hits Taiwan. North Korea hits South Korea. Russia ups its war with Ukraine. I feel like if anyone was going to get the boot in that kind of a situation, it probably would actually be the Israelis. Because if the war started to get ramped up here in Europe, I'm assuming that means that that's now a conventional ground war against all of NATO at that point. So that would be put on top priority because Europe is equally important in the Western world to North America. So they would be put on priority. Then East Asia would also be put on priority because South Korea and Taiwan are some of the largest economies in this region, and Taiwan and South Korea are strategically important for the Western sphere, Taiwan producing a large amount of computer components, South Korea producing a large amount of heavy industry equipment, and also a lot of computer components as well. So as far as that is concerned, Asia and Europe would get prioritized. I think the Middle East would be put on a lower priority level. Like if there was resources to divert into that area, they would be diverted, but I don't think it would be the top priority area at that point anymore. Because Israel, in a sense, as long as things remain manageable, they can take care of themselves. And if necessary, if the situation got that bad, there probably could be a temporary coalition made of Arabic countries like Israel, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and maybe Oman, maybe, but I'm not really sure about Oman. But at least Israel, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia could all team together and defend themselves, because at that point, it would be very clear that this isn't a ideological difference in between Judaism and Islam. This would more so be a West versus an axis of evil kind of a situation, and so these countries will start to band together under a common cause, at least of the defense of their part of their Western sphere, which would be the Israelis, Jordanians, and Saudi Arabians, at least within this area. So I feel like that's how it would turn out, because the thing is, and I'm once again have to remind everyone of this, the United States does have enough military hardware and does have a large enough budget already that at the onset of that kind of a war, with everything breaking out around the world, we could be everywhere doing everything at the same time. I mean, we wouldn't be able to dedicate like an overwhelming number of resources into every single area, but we could deal with them and stabilize the situations in all of these regions and then start to prioritize them.
Yeah, I mean, and that may be an option.
That may be an option. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion, Michael McMahon. And that's a very good question. And I hope I was able to address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next question here from the live chat is going to go to Arthur. He says, do y'all believe that Israel and the U.S. and partners will be able to have the same 99% rate this time around with all the pieces on their side in place?
As long as everything is set up like last time, and as long as the amount of cheap, inexpensive Hezbollah rockets that's fired off isn't more than about 1,000 during that attack, or during the span of that entire attack, we should be able to defend against it, because Israel has a finite amount of interceptors available at any given moment. They have about 700 Iron Dome missiles ready at any given time. They have about, I believe, about another 100 or so Patriots ready at any given time. And then they also have about an equal number of that in Arrow anti-ballistic missiles at any given time. So they have about 900 interceptors available for any attack at any given moment. So that means that if Hezbollah fires off hundreds of rockets over the span of a day or several days, they could end up running Israel's interceptors bone dry, where they don't have enough missiles to be able to defend themselves at that point. Then it falls entirely on the Israeli Air Force to defend Israel's skies instead of the ground air defense. And then if Iran launches their attack, not only is the Israeli Air Force continuing to have to defend against Hezbollah attacks from southern Lebanon, they're also having to defend from attacks from Iran itself. So going off of that, it's entirely possible they could have a 99% interception rate as long as they're able to count on the coalition, and as long as the amount of projectiles being fired at Israel isn't overwhelming the air defense, they could have a 99% success rate. But if it is larger than that, then they will start to run into problems, and that interception rate will start to drop drastically with more missiles being fired at that point. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least from what we would know. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and huge shout out to Purple Gerbil who threw in at 125 Canadian. Once again, and huge shout out for that massive dono. And we're up to 4,968. We're about to hit the $5,000 mark. I cannot believe it. We're about to go over 5K once again, and huge thanks to everybody for that. And we're also moving on to our next question, which goes to KPS Kingdom. They said, do you think that the risk is far greater of Iran using a nuke than intelligence is letting on? And also, the Australian market lost $77 billion this morning.
And thank you for sharing that as well, KBS Kingdom. And I would have to say that the risk of Iran using a nuke is a lot higher than you would find in a normal situation, but that's still probably really low. Because when I say a normal situation, it's maybe about less than 5%, maybe with Iran is around 7%, I would assume, because no one's really that apt to use a nuclear weapon, because like everyone's always worked with, there is a principle of mutually assured destruction, and I'm pretty sure that Iran, while they are really big into the whole martyrdom side of things, I'm sure that tens of millions of people inside Iran wouldn't want to end up becoming martyrs overnight for a cause that would die with them. So I have a feeling that the chances are still incredibly low, a little bit higher than normal probably, but still very low. And also, the Australian market did lose $77 billion this morning. I believe, from what Matthew was telling me, the American market lost about $1 trillion. And so with that, I hope
no. Like, I don't think we lost $1 trillion. That wasn't the U.S. market. At least not today, it wasn't.
Oh, okay. Well, correction there. I stand corrected. I was wrong, but whoopsies. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so our next question here goes to Value Radar, who says, what do you and the Enforcer personally think is the likelihood of World War III kicking off full force within the next decade, and clearly subjective with countless factors to alter the outcomes? And for me, in my opinion, and this is solely my opinion, also I want to make a disclaimer, I'm not a fearmonger, and I'm not someone who's worried about, oh God, we're going to die tomorrow. We'll be okay. If something does happen, the United States will have to pull through and unify, and we will have to go into a war economy to figure it out, but we will pull through. I'm confident about that. But on this one, I would say that World War III is a certainty. It's going to happen at some point. The question is, when's it going to happen? And all the generals seem to agree with each other that it's going to happen in the next decade or so. So I would have to sort of tend to believe that, because the tensions are rising too rapidly around the world. And it could happen a lot sooner than a decade, to be perfectly honest, because right now everybody's getting more angry. I think people around the world are simply getting too content with having somewhat of a stable lifestyle, because that's the way dictators work. They want to expand, they want to grow their countries, and they want to take over other people's land, and they simply can't sit still for too long. So I would say that Ukraine was probably the start of that when Russia decided to invade Ukraine. That destabilized geopolitics. Then China wanted to start really getting really hot and heavy about invading Taiwan. And now we're seeing problems all around the world breaking out, including the Middle East and also in South America as well. So, with the chaos spreading so rapidly, I think it is going to happen definitely within the next decade. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that World War is really close now, really more so than it's ever been, at least in the past 30 years. I'm not sure if it's as close as it was during the Cold War to happening. It was very close the entire time. But it is a fairly unstable time. So I would say that the chances are pretty decent that a world war could break out within the next 10 years, but I'm not going to say it's absolute. So I'd have to disagree with Matthew on that a little bit. I don't think it's a 100% guarantee it will happen, but it is a pretty decent likelihood, a little bit higher so than the time from the 1990s through to the late 2010s, at least in my opinion. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, real quick, I was trying to do a quick look. It looks like there's some red alerts coming in Israel. It looks like it could be probably routine attacks, but I'll have to take a closer look here in a minute. But anyways, jumping into our next question, this one is going to go to John H. He says, it seems that Russia likes to use glide bombs to strike Ukraine positions from afar. And do you think that Ukraine will use the F-16 to use glide bombs against Russian targets?
It's highly likely that they could. Glide bombs will be a great way to slow down a Russian offensive near Pokrovsk at the moment. So it's entirely within the realm of possibility that the Ukrainians could start to use a large amount of glide bombs as well. A lot like the 250 Hammer that we're seeing that's been provided by the French. They could start to mount those onto F-16s and use them, or they could make their own glide bombs to target and attack Russian forces near the area of Pokrovsk at the moment. So I would say yes, the chances are pretty decent that glide bombs could end up being used. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. I'm also trying to browse the internet right now and look for the news of incoming attacks. So hopefully we can find.
Oh, and also, by the way, Enforcer, I actually got the Israel Red Alert app, which actually sends the alerts to your phone that the Israelis get. So it's actually not even on Twitter yet. So I'm seeing that coming through on the app from the Homefront Command servers.
Oh, could you tell me some of the names of the towns that are under an alert?
So it says red alert at the confrontation line in Ben Ami and Evron, and also red alert in the Upper Galilee area. Let's see here, Beat High Emek, as well as Nativ High Sharai, or however you say it, and also Sheikh Danun and Mazarah.
Let's see here. I'm trying to see if I can find all those towns. It's probably up here.
It's in the north, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's in the north because they said the North Galilee area, so that's really everything kind of up here in this forested area near Mount Meron. So it sounds as though it's another Hezbollah rocket attack that's in a very limited range just across the border. Also, I like how they have the World War III Airsoft Club right here. It looks like these guys know what's up.
Oh yeah, look at that. That's pretty cool. Man, they don't have to play. They can either play airsoft or the real deal if they just go like 500 feet to the east.
Oh, dude, look. They're LARPing. We have the IDF over here, and we have Hamas over there. Look at that, dude. They literally have like That's actually kind of funny, man. They literally just they kind of like LARP the IDF and Hamas. Look at that, like, dude, legit. Like they are doing like an IDF Hamas sort of a thing, like with the photo shoots. That's interesting. That's really interesting.
Is this for fun or is this like actual training? Really?
Who knows? Like who knows? But. Let's see. Nice AK-74 mock. Well, that's kind of like an AKM, I guess, but they got the muzzle brake of a 74. Interesting. Yeah, they got some
Those
really
look
nice
so real,
airsoft
man.
guns.
Like those honestly look real.
Man, they don't have the orange tips on them or nothing, man. That's when you go to the range and you check if friendly fire's on. Like you just like pull one of these things out and start shooting. But still, really interesting to see. Really interesting. I mean, that's incredibly interesting. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and this one right here is going to go to Eugene Minton, who said, did the F-16s come fully assembled, or did Ukraine get parts and then have to build them from scratch? And would it be good for training repair folks, right?
Probably would be good for training repair folks, but to be entirely honest, I think they just flew them in, and they didn't disassemble them. So I hope that addresses that. at least in my opinion, fairly well. I think it'd be really complicated to completely disassemble an F-16 and then ship it over in parts. Maybe take off the wings and maybe ship a fuselage in, but you couldn't like conduct a complete disassembly of the aircraft. So I hope that does address that well. I think some of them may have been flown in or they may have been trucked in. We don't really have enough details to know for certain, but for some reason I'm leaning a little bit more towards them being flown in. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next question goes to CU Julian for 343. I almost messed up the numbers there, then, but thank you very much for the good question. They said, do you think that now that Ukraine has F-16s, we should expect to see the Crimean Bridge in flames after the Olympics?
It's possible that that could happen. I don't think the F-16 will be responsible for that attack, and most likely there'll be an Su-24 or a ground-fired ATACMS that'll be responsible for the damage to the Crimean Bridge. But it could be possible that the F-16 will help out in a part of that mission of either helping the ATACMS to reach its target or something else along those lines. So maybe so. I think there's probably a pretty big chance, Kachulian, that could happen. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And this one is going to go to Howard Turgell, who said, does Iran have the firepower if they choose to get stupid, wanting to see what the Stone Age looks like?
Iran probably doesn't have that firepower at the moment. From what we know, U.S. intelligence is saying that they are working towards a nuclear weapon and they're really close, but they don't have one yet. So I don't think they have that kind of firepower at the moment. They just have enough firepower to probably get their government overthrown, is the honest truth. It's so that...
They got just enough to get themselves into some trouble.
Wait, hang on, Matthew. They got enough just to get their government overthrown. Oh! All right, jump up with that. I hope that does.
Mr. Bezos, get yourself under control.
Well, I wish I could get myself under control. I guess I'll have to kick it in gear. Oh! But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Excuse me. Oh, damn. Excuse me. I was trying to take a sip of water there and it almost went wrong. But let's see. Goodness. Anonymous said, what is the explosive in the AIM missile?
Let's see here. Let me try and find that detail for you. Let's see. I'm guessing you're talking about the AIM-9 because there's the AIM-9, the AIM-7, the AIM-120, and there's a couple of other AIMs as well, I believe. But let me see if I can find this interesting tidbit of info. Sadly, I'm not able to find it. And hang on, hold up, Warhead. Okay, so we have it. Boom, shakalaka. Okay, so we have. On the AIM-9R, apparently the track rate is classified on that one, also on the AIM-9M. But it has a 21-pound warhead, WDU-17/B. And then the AIM-9P and the AIM-9R just have annular blast fragmentation warheads, but we don't get an exact weight for the warhead. But it's a fairly small one. I mean, the explosive mass in a missile like that isn't really going to be that big, but it's going to be incredibly devastating for an aircraft if it blows up near it or on it. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion, and from the information that we can get. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next question here is going to go to LSA Dragon. And also, hello to you, LSA Sergeant Figman. I see he's in the live chat in there.
Oh, hello.
He said, and also, LSA Dragon said, after the F-16, what Western weapon will we send next to Ukraine?
I think we've kind of run out of Western weapons to send at this point, at least on any big-ticket items, because I think we've sent everything that we could in every single category of every type. So then it's just about the volume. And we're wanting to talk about sending them more. It's just about the volume of sending them the same stuff we've already sent, but in just larger numbers and more of it. So I hope that does address that fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we got a question from Tom Exman. He said, here's a good question, Matt. He said, now that the percentage of Russian refinery ability, let's see. I think he meant to ask, what is the current percentage of Russian refineries that have been knocked out?
About 15 to 17% based off of our current reports that we were able to get. And so I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Miller Pebble, who said, guys, what did you make of Sarah's announcement regarding Sersky? And if I have it correct, Sarah is the spokeswoman, I believe. I'm not really sure, but I haven't heard what she said about Sersky. That would be kind of unusual.
I haven't heard anything about Sersky either. So I'd have to say I'd have to declare ignorance on that. Unfortunately, Miller Pebble, but still really interesting. I do have to say though that there was something so funny that happened today because Sersky kind of rhymes with a similar name, and I didn't know about this until really like right before the show. But Matthew told me about this, and I got a huge laugh out of it. That apparently there was some kind of a show that was going on today or something, Matthew, and you went over there and you looked at it.
Oh yeah.
And apparently that clown Bozo knew who we were. Like I thought that was hilarious.
So, a funny story, by the way. Some of y'all were actually over there and y'all saw this going down, and it was quite an event. I'm apparently quite popular with the haters. But I went over there to a guy's stream who was actually hosting a pro-Ukraine YouTuber that most of y'all will know. We're not going to say his name, though, just because for other reasons. But he was hosting a pro-Ukraine YouTuber, and he was debating the merits of why the U.S. should support Ukraine. So, it was a very silly debate because the guy who was the host.
Uh-oh, you cut out.
Oh, did I cut? What was the last thing I said?
You said the guy that was the host.
So the guy that was the host of the channel was clearly pro-Russian. He kept pretending like he was trying to agree with the pro-Ukraine perspective, but in reality, he was using the platform to basically spew the Russian propaganda and saying all of Putin's propaganda points. So it was really a pointless debate. And also, I really have a problem. Like, if you're a pro-Ukraine YouTuber and you support Western interests, you know, everybody has free speech. Like, say what you want if you want to say it. And that YouTuber had every right to say what he wanted to say. But the catch is, though, don't go and give a platform to a channel that's really small, that's spewing pro-Russian propaganda. Don't even go and entertain that debate. Because if they're spewing lies, that's not even worth giving it any attention whatsoever. And that's basically what this pro-Ukraine YouTuber did, which is really counterproductive. But basically, the guy knew who we were. So when I put my opinion in the chat saying that I didn't agree with him, he basically made a comment about our voices that we do on the stream or something like that. He started making fun of our stream. I was like, "You're kidding me! This guy knows who we are." It's like that's an honor. It's like this dude's a pro-Russian and he apparently hates our channel. So he pinned my comment because after he got smart with me, he became like a smart ass with me for like putting my opinion out there about the Ukraine situation. He said, "Oh, look at this." He said, "I don't know what I'm talking about," and then he banned me out of the chat after he got done talking about free speech. It's like, dude, it's like really, it's like come on. But the long story short, though. Pro-Russian idiot, another one on YouTube, not shocking whatsoever. And I saw some people in the live chat saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, Enforcer Matt, you had to go through that." If someone's a clown and they're putting out lies like that, I could care less what their attacks are or anything like that. We are extremely resilient to attacks by stupid people. They don't bother me one iota at all whatsoever. I could have the whole world pile on top of me. If I know I'm right, it's not going to bother me one bit. And the Enforcer's the same way as well. That's why we've been really resilient to Hot Dog Man's attacks and everybody else's attacks. We don't give into that crap. And in fact, I come back a lot stronger next time because I don't tolerate being tried to be canceled and things like that. So if y'all saw it, it was a hell of a showdown indeed. It was a minute. I was laughing my ass off over here when it was happening because the guy thought he was like getting a good one on me, but really it was just stupid all the way around. But Enforcer didn't get to see it, sadly.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it. I didn't even know it was happening until after the fact because Matthew told me about it. I was like, dude, that's hilarious. But one thing I will say about that that I always find so funny is that because well the interesting thing with that show was that this guy clearly is not like a neutral, unbiased kind of a person asking legitimate questions. You know, like it's that kind of a person who's really political, like obviously, like if you look at the stream, I mean the guy literally had on political clothing. Like, didn't he? Like, if I was remember, yeah. And so it's like, obviously, the guy is not unbiased. He has some very strong opinions because he's willing to shell out his money and waste it pretty much to get some really political clothing. You know, like, and I want to make sure to make this a disclaimer. I just generally think people are really goofy who buy political clothing, like whether it's one side or the other, like whether it's some goofy shirt with some slogan on it or a baseball cap or something. I just find that really a waste of money because it only is pertinent for that one election cycle, and also I think that's almost like getting to the point of like I don't know, worshiping the ideology to the point you'd spend money to put it on a shirt. Like, why in the world put that on a shirt? Like, just go vote. Who cares? Like, who really does care what you think? But anyways,
Oh,
Guys,
also, Enforcer, one other thing as well, I forgot. This was the main point that really got me livid, like that the guy said. And once again, everybody's free to have their opinion, but there are some things that are a little bit silly to say. This guy, this pro-Russian fellow who was debating a pro-Ukrainian, he made the point that he doesn't want a single dollar of American tax money going overseas to Ukraine, and I think his point was anywhere overseas. He said, I want to put it just in America. And basically he was saying we should pull out of the global stage completely, like all the way, like isolationism.
is that
And
stupid crap.
that to me is insanity. Because just like that indicates a complete lack of understanding of the way geopolitics works, and that's understandable. I don't think the guy had any credentials at all. He was just spewing a goofy point. We can't just ever pull out of the global stage. If I can understand if people want to pull back a little bit, like if you want to pull back funding because you think we're putting too much money into it, that's a fair point to make. I personally don't agree with it, but it's a fair point. But to say we should just cancel everything and pull out of it, that's just stupid. Like, it really is honestly stupid. China would step into that vacuum, take over all of our influence, and then if a war breaks out like World War III, the United States is going to be left high and dry without many allies, which would be a disaster. So isolationism will never work, and that guy was basically advocating for that.
Oh man, oh my goodness. Dude, that's the one argument, man, that we literally fight about the most on this channel against other people in the chat with is the whole stupid isolationism idea. Like, I guess the Russians and the Chinese are isolationists, right? Like, Russia is invading Ukraine. That's a very isolationist kind of a policy. And then China is also trying to invade Taiwan. I guess that's really isolationist too. We should follow their examples, and we should just become isolationists as well. I think, in fact, if we're following their example, we should invade Libya. Just make a random country and just invade them. And just figure out where we'll go from there, because that's isolationism, apparently. We don't want to spend a single...
Let's just pull out of everything. Let's just pull out. I mean, I don't want my money going over to some foreign country.
That's
Why do I
right.
want it going over there? Because I need to put it right here.
That's
It's like,
r-
dude, we have plenty of funds. It's like, understand, like, we don't want to add too much to the debt. I get that. Like, there's fair points to be made, but that is so goofy. It's like the reaction if someone sees something that they don't understand. It's like, oh, revolt, like push it away, forget it. It's like they don't understand it, so they're scared of it, so they push it away. It's like, you don't understand geopolitics, my friend. Not really my friend, really more like my enemy at this point. because
No, you
really got to become a
asshole.
smart
Like, you
ass.
don't understand geopolitics, you asshole. That's the
The
truth.
dude was a royal smartass, like he really was. Like, then he had the nerve to ban me after he got done ranting about free speech and how he hates all kinds of other stuff that's political. I can't get into it, but we can't just revolt from the world just because it starts getting a little bit hairy out there. That's just not smart.
Oh, I would want to. That's what I've been saying on this channel for years. Like, that's what I've been saying, man. I agree with that completely. But like, I love that argument, Matthew, that this guy puts out. It's just like, oh, like let's just stop doing everything around the world everywhere. And it's like, okay, so what do we do with that money we're not spending? Shit, I don't know. Or we're going to fix homelessness and poverty or something. And it's like, oh my God, it's like that stupid argument again. It's like, who has fixed it? Who has? Come up with one country who has fixed it, and I will say, okay, all right, you've won your argument. No one has ever fixed that problem. Like, even countries like Denmark have not fixed homelessness. Like, there are still homeless people in Denmark. Like, there are homeless people everywhere. And if someone comes in here and go, no, there isn't homeless people in Denmark because they have shelters, I'm actually gonna pulp someone at that point, because we have the Salvation Army here in America and they have shelters. So technically, if you want to say that that's not homeless people, we don't have homeless people in America because they usually go to a Salvation Army or something at the end of the day every day. But it's something that just annoys the hell out of me. And also, I like how people like this one, Matthew, fix something else first. Why can't you just do both of them? It's not like the government is like
No.
as stupid and slow and mentally challenged as the
Well.
individuals pushing this stuff. Like, you can do multiple different things in different places. Like, do you know how many people work in the U.S. federal government? Y'all want to know how many federal employees there are? Let's pull it up. How many federal employees are there? Okay, so the answer is very shocking. There is about 2 million. Oh, no, sorry, actually, correction. There are 3 million federal employees working in different agencies in the federal government right now. That is about 1% of the entire population works in the federal government in the giant-ass bureaucracy we have. So why in the world do we always act like, out of these 3 million people, the federal government is 3 times larger than the federal U.S. Army, like the U.S. military, the Department of Defense. The amount of employees we have working in intergovernmental agencies is 3 times bigger than our military. So then we want to sit there and go, okay, so out of these 3 million people, for some reason, all 3 million of these people can only focus on one problem at a time. Like, that is the stupidest argument I've ever heard. Because it's like, when you go work at, I don't know, Amazon, it's like, does everyone work at packing boxes at the same time? It's like, no, you have like you have the managers, you have the people who collect the piss bottles, you have like all of these people doing different jobs. Like, they're all not doing the same thing at Amazon. That's like going to a grocery store like Walmart and saying, well, shit, they can't have stockers because they need to run those registers. So everyone needs to stop what they're doing in Walmart. Just let the whole damn store fall apart and everyone go get on the cash registers. Like, that is a stupid way of thinking about things. Why do people think about things like that? It's illogical. It makes no sense. So to put that out there, there are 3 million people working in the federal government. Just pick some of them and get them working on different jobs. You know, like, that's how it always works. Because also another thing that's so stupid with that argument is, let's do this first. Every time there's a presidential election, I don't know how many different campaign policies have been come up with at this point by all the presidential candidates. I don't know. They talk about like 80 or 90 different things at a time. So how in the world is it during presidential elections literally anything and everything is talked about and everything is going to be fixed if you vote for them? But then when we actually talk about the nation doing something, we have to stop the whole damn presses on everything everywhere to do one thing. That makes no sense. That makes no sense at all. That's just stupid. Like I can't even wrap my mind around that kind of a logic. It's dumb. It's really dumb. Like I'm trying to come up with another way to explain that. I feel like I'm hammering it home fairly well. Let me know if I am in the chat. But that is, I just don't know why people think like that. Like, it's like, you know, like when the cops, like when your local police department, you know, like when they're doing their thing, it's like not all of them are on patrol. You know, like there are cops that are doing paperwork back at the police station. There are other cops that are detectives that are investigating things. All of these are different jobs. And the individual, that one police department, like the Birmingham Police Department, is doing all of these different things at one time. And just because one area, one category, you think that one of those is doing badly, doesn't mean you have to stop the presses on everything else to focus on that one thing. I think a lot of people think like that. Maybe because they have poor life planning skills, and so in their own lives they're so dysfunctional they literally stop everything else to focus on one thing, and they'll let the whole world fall apart around them, but they'll fix that one thing, and then when they're finally done putting the little ribbon on top of that problem that they finally fixed, they turn around and they found out that they made 10 other problems because they weren't even maintaining or sustaining anything else that they were doing. Maybe that's why people think like that. I don't know, but that is a really dumb way to think.
Also, by the way, it's coming back to me now. It's like flooding back in. I'm remembering the trauma of what this guy said, this pro-Russian clown.
Wait, before you get into the trauma, Matthew, are you going to go to IHOP because of this trauma?
Oh, I'm so hurt.
Welcome back, defenders. Enforcer here. I was traumatized.
But here was the traumatic statements. He was trying to make the point. He was trying to say that basically Putin's a strong man. Like, Putin has like some credentials, credibility, and stuff like that. And he kept trying to make the stupid point that Zelensky was a clown. He was a comedian. He doesn't know what he's doing, and he's crooked and corrupt. And he was making this whole point about how he was a joker and a clown. And he played the piano at one point in the comedy routine, you know, with something else. He was trying to discredit the guy's entire career and everything like that. Like the Russian propagandists do 24/7. It's literally their shtick, is to go around saying that. And the guy basically just started doing these ad hominem attacks on Zelensky. And what got me the most is the pro-Ukrainian that went on there didn't really push back very much against it. Just sort of just acknowledged it and moved on. It's like, you know, it's not productive to go on places where people are making silly comments like that. Because Zelensky is actually law school educated. He went through law school, so he's technically a lawyer. So he's not stupid. He's not just a joker. And also, he's in charge of the country. And so far, he's done a pretty good, damn good job of actually leading them to victory so far in the war. Because Ukraine could have fallen without the right leadership, and it's still hanging on really well right now. So, you know, it's just silly, man. The pro-Russian points are always the same every single time. These people listen to pro-Russian sources like Jackson Hinkle and places like that, and then they run with it and they think they're geniuses.
Also, another thing about that is that like the stupid propaganda points, like Putin is a strongman. It's like, did anyone watch the Tucker Carlson interview where he literally ranted like a buffoon for like 40 minutes and it didn't even make a point at the end of 40 minutes? Like it wasn't like some masterful like 40-minute explanation that put all the pieces together and like put everything in line. It was literally just filibustering for 40 minutes. Like that wasn't smart looking. Like nothing that has been done in Ukraine so far has been smart at all. Like nothing from the battle planning side of things. And on top of that, the government is being run so poorly. And Putin was such a wise, strongman, cunning kind of a guy. He's had to replace pretty much everyone in the Russian Ministry of Defense from Shoigu down. Because he was such a smart, cunning spy master strongman. He picked literally every wrong person for every job in the Russian military you could imagine. And then he had to replace them all. Like, he had to replace Shoigu. Shoigu's been around since 2012. He got replaced after being there for 12 years. Like, that's how incompetent this guy is. Like, you can't sit there and make someone out like that to be a strongman. And also, that guy is like a raving idiot. Like, if you listen to him, he'll say shit like, I will nuke the West and I'll kill every Westerner. And then when a journalist literally right after he says that says, so anyway, are you threatening the West? No, I'm not threatening the West. That would be crazy. And it's like, are you stupid or something? It's like, you literally just contradicted yourself. It's like, that doesn't look smart either. That just looks stupid. That's like...
Also,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
I was about to switch topics so you can finish out.
Oh, well, I was pretty much rounding it out right there. I was like, that's a good way to segue out. But anyways, to round that out, since I have to round it out now, stupid arguments by a goofy guy. And also I like, Matthew, how, like you were saying, he's all into free speech until the speech doesn't agree with his, just like everyone out there in the world. Everyone loves to triumph that free speech argument until they don't like the speech, and then they ban you. Like, I'll make it up front. We're a pro-Western channel. Like, I'm all for free speech in a public forum, but this isn't a public forum. This is the Enforcer YouTube channel. We're pro-Western. We don't allow anyone to come in here and say whatever they want. I'll make that really clear. Like, I'm not going to lie to y'all and try and talk about, oh, I love free speech. Free speech should be allowed everywhere. You know, everywhere, anywhere and everywhere. And then ban people. Like, no, we do ban people. Like, there are things that we do not allow, like anti-Western statements. Or anti-Ukrainian or anti-Israeli or anti-Taiwanese statements, things like that we don't allow. We're a pro-Western channel. Why would we allow people to echo sentiments that aren't in line with this channel's views? Like, this is an independent platform right here. We enforce the message that this channel is supposed to be sending, not just on our own, but through the live chat as well. We don't allow people to just domineer our live chat and be like, Ukraine sucks. Like, nope, you're out. This is a pro-Ukraine, pro-Israel, pro-Taiwan in general, pro-Western channel. So if you're not for that, you go. Like, that's how it works here. I'm not going to make any ifs, ands, or buts about that or any qualms about it. You know, free speech is great. Go out there and say whatever you want in the open public, you know, in the public forum. But this isn't a public forum, and there's a very big distinction in between the two. But with that...
Also, you know who else was lurking around this guy's channel, the Pro-Russians channel, who was really dying to get on there after he heard all this crap being spewed?
Who?
The hot dog man was lurking in the chat. Me and him got into once again another fight in the live chat because he was running his mouth again like usual. He's always doing that. And also, what kills me though, what really like kills me, is he keeps making this point that he's doing so well and stuff like that. It's like I went over there yesterday and
he
looked.
loses another 100 subs.
He lost another 100 subs, and he's down to like barely pulling in 500 viewers or something like that. And his viewers are going off every day in the comments about how he sucks. It's like, dude, it's like I almost feel bad at this point, and I can't stand the guy. I almost feel bad with just how really terrible his channel's going. It's like you couldn't sabotage a channel worse if you were really trying. It's pathetic. But he was hanging around, and when he heard this guy spewing all this pro-Russian stuff, for Hot Dog Man to be such a devout pro-Ukraine supporter, he was like, please, he was begging the guy, can I please come on your show? Can I please come on? It's like, why is he dying to come on this guy's show when he's spewing pro-Russian propaganda? It's like, that makes no sense. What kind of pro-Ukrainian is this?
Yeah, well, he's the pro-Ukrainian that's all for lining those pockets for another free vacation somewhere. Like
exactly. He's already trying to get more money to go to like a political event. Did you hear that? He's trying to get more money from the audience to go, put him in a hotel, go and get the high-class dinner at night, and then go to the DNC. It's like, I thought the last time he said that was it. And he raised money to go on a trip to a war zone where people were suffering and children are dying. He paid to go over there and drink with his buddies in the middle of a war zone like that. And now he's doing it again in a different way, and his viewers are still donating. That's the crazy part. Like his viewers are still giving him money.
Like we sit here and we say, y'all help us to keep the lights on and stuff. We never start like a fundraiser for ourselves. Like, okay, y'all, we want to take a trip to Four Seasons in Orlando. Okay, everyone, put together some money. Like that is so jacked up. Like that is the most jacked up. Like I will say this because this is how I personally feel about it. That is like the scammiest thing you can do to viewers of your channel is to sit there and say, okay, everyone, give me money. I want to go on a vacation. Like that is the most asshole thing anyone could ever do. That is crazy to me. It really is. Like I could never imagine telling y'all that. Like I'm planning on having a luxurious vacation and it's going to be on y'all's dime. Give me money. Like who the hell, like, what kind of audacity does this crackhead from Minnesota have to be telling people that they gotta pay an all-expenses vacation for him? It's like, the audacity of that, I can't even comprehend something like that, or even thinking of us doing something like that. That's crazy. That is really crazy. Next thing you know, Matthew, he's gonna be telling people to give him thousands of dollars so he can go get fresh baggies or something like that. It's going to be something else. Like, 100%.
Oh.
Or better yet, he'll be saying, I need my car repaired. I need y'all to fundraise for that. It's like, why don't you just, like, I don't know, like, run a good show and have people enjoy your show and want to support it to keep it on air, instead of being such a boring, sad leech that the only way the guy gets subscribers is either hating on other people, which doesn't work anymore, or trying to suck up to them so that we can get on their show and ride a little bit off of their clout. It's like, why don't you actually just focus on being a good YouTuber and having a good show, and then, you know, make your living that way, instead of just bitching and moaning about everything and then begging people to give you money so you can go on trips and stuff. That is like the most psychotic, stupid way of living. Guy really needs mental help, like 100%. There's a lot of people out there who need mental help, but I think if I'm president, I'm going to start a mental health fund, or we're going to reopen the asylums, and he's going to be the first person either in the asylum, or he's going to be the first person to get state mandated psychiatric help. It's going to be one or the other. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well, and I think, crazily enough, I thought we
have one more thing.
Yeah, we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
All right, and that lucky last viewer of the night is Purple Gerbil, who said, can we see Alan, and good night, and see you Tuesday, LSA.
Man, I'm telling you, man, I'm going to go take a look at this. Well, let's see. They didn't want the pimp marmot, though. They just want the normal marmot. So we're going to go grab it. And here we go. We're going to have that little fella up here in a second. Hang on, everyone. Oh, hello there. Hey!
Hello there, Governor. I just left the stream with a pro-Russian fellow. He was quite nasty. It was nasty indeed. But the thing he doesn't understand is he's totally ignorant.
Aw, man. I really want on your show, sir, please. I know you're really, like, anti everything I stand for, but please, I need to ride on your insignificant clout. I must.
Yes. And also, by the way, well, let me do it in the marmot. Yes, Governor, and the silly part was, this pro-Russian fellow had 150,000 subs, and he could only pull in 700 live viewers.
Oh shit,
what a shame.
what?
Yes, I remember when we had 150,000 subs, we were pulling in, I think it was like 6,000 or 7,000 viewers a night or something like that. It was high. And, you know, obviously we're very grateful for that, and it's the LSA tuning in that makes that possible. But this guy could barely pull in 700 people, and that says a lot.
Damn, that's tough, dude. Like, I don't know anything about this channel, y'all. I just heard the story from Matthew, and I was like, wow, that sounds like Clown World over there. So I don't even know who the hell this person was. But I will say that I'm getting a laugh out of it. I did hear, though, Matthew did describe, like, the profile of this individual, like, their clothes, what they looked like, and everything. Sounded to me like the typical goof, like the absolute typical, like, boob, if you want to call him that. The kind of bozo that you would hear the most non-hot, most repeated takes that you ever hear. Like, that's, oh, stop bashing. No, we're going to keep going. Like, I'm sorry, I think I want to. But beyond that, it sounded like the most goofy thing ever. I'm probably going to go check it out after the show, maybe, and go look at it, because I might want to get a good laugh out of what happened over there. I haven't seen it yet. But with that, It is wonderful to
You can
have.
thank you can thank our buddies in the pro Ukraine community for giving the guy some more followers and a platform, because if it hadn't have been for that, the guy would have probably never been known about in the whole like Ukraine support community. But now I'm sure a lot of people know about him because of that, which is really insanely stupid. I don't even understand why they would do that, but you know how it is.
Well, it's kind of like that other guy who went on the Piers Morgan show. It's like, why? Like, why would you do that? This is stupid. Like, don't you know who this guy is? It's like, why would you go over there? You're just validifying this guy. Why are you doing that? Like, don't do it. That's dumb. Also, this guy's dropped off. He went from being on CNN to now he's running a YouTube channel, getting about the same amount of views as we are. It's like, why would you go there? It's like he's on his way out. Like, why would you go on his show? Like, anyways, with that, it is nice to have Alan the Marmot here with us tonight. It's a beautiful marmot, an amazing creature. We absolutely love to see it. But with that, we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I'm going to thank all of y'all so much once again for watching. We've gotten 123,000 views so far tonight, and we have had a peak viewership of 11,000 people who were here. We were entirely honored to have each and every single one of y'all here tonight and enjoying this channel, and not only that, supporting this fundraiser that has done insanely well. I can't see the exact total right now because that window was closed off on accident on the second screen, but it is somewhere around $5,000 raised for Save the Children, which is truly incredible. And once again, showing that the Lee Spring Army has a massive heart for the folks that we're covering the news on around the world, and actually helping them out and hopefully making the world a little bit of a better place. It's not going to change the world. It's not going to fix the world, but hopefully it'll help out a person here and there in the long run. And so with that, I thank you all so much once again for watching, and I will see you all on Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine, and also the really news from around the world. But with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
Yes, indeed. And with that, good night to everybody, and thank you once again for another fantastic fundraiser stream with a whopping $5,100 raised. That is tremendous to see. And also with that, we'll see you all on Tuesday night on the next live stream that we're going to cover. And also, we'll see you tomorrow on the Daily Short War Summary. And of course, if anything does pop off in the Middle East or anywhere around the world, we'll immediately jump on the stream and start streaming with the available information that we have. And that will be probably within the hour of something happening. So you can rely on us instead of mainstream media to bring the coverage to you in a very timely manner. But with that, Slava Ukraine, Herom Slava. Thank you all once again, and good night.
The Lee Spring Army sends its regards